as promised, Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker Michael Moore. Michael, good evening.
Good evening, Keith.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is Rachel Maddow. Good evening, Rachel.
Good evening, Keith.
There's been a spike in the desire to own guns in Connecticut. Statewide, over 90,000 guns have been authorized for sale. You know how I feel about it.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
That's right. You're listening to Jeff Norton of the Midnight Patriot radio show. I am your host, Jeff Norton. You can join us every night from 9 p.m. till about 11 p.m., sometimes 12. Last night we actually went 3 hours. It was a great show, a lot of information. We had some callers in, just keeping the conversation real. But if you'd like to join us, you can always join us on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com. That's www.themidnightpatriot.com. Or you can give us a call at 347-205-9899. That's 347-205-9899. Or you can also Skype us. All this technology. I'm learning all this new technology. So we got our Skype lines are going. The Midnight Patriot is our name out there on Skype. You can join us via Facebook or actually directly through Skype. Now, I want to apologize to those that actually called in last night on Skype. I wasn't watching the screen as good as I should have been. It's a one-man show. I don't have a Snively. I don't have a producer yet. So, I do apologize that I did miss your calls. Feel free to give us a call back tonight. Now I got to tell you, tonight's a great show. Obviously, we're already, Congress has sold us down the river. There's no doubt about it. So, we're going to move on. We were talking about the problems all of last week. Now we're going to start talking about some of the solutions. So we have a special guest that we are bringing in, Prepper Recon. He's going to be joining us here in a few minutes. We're going to be talking about all things prepping and what we should do and some of the signs that we want to do. So that will be coming here in a few minutes. And the good news is this. I don't know if you guys listen to a lot of talk radio. I know a lot of my listeners do during the day. The nice thing is, about the fact that we do our own show here and stuff, we'll be able to carry this whole conversation, this interview that we're going to be doing, more of a conversation on an interview in its entirety without any advertisement or commercial break. So that's a good thing and stuff. So we appreciate it. But once again, if you'd like to join in the conversation, feel free to give us a call at 347-205-9899. The lines are open, and the Midnight Patriot for all you Skype users, and you can always join us on themidnightpatriot.com. The best way you can support our efforts here at the Midnight Patriot is go out, join us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, tell your friends about us. We want to take this show global. We want to own the 9 to 12 o'clock slot for us Patriots, in media. Now, we have an opportunity here to actually get syndicated through iHeartRadio, and the only way that we can do that is with your help and support and your suggestions. So if there's something that you'd like to see us do a little bit differently, let us know. I'm open to it. I'm on Facebook pretty much every day for about 4 to 6 hours. So, suggestions welcomed. I'll put the box out there. So one of the suggestions that we were told that we needed to do, and I agree wholeheartedly, here at the Midnight Patriot, we appreciate those men and women that put on our country's uniform. And in order to do that, that's one thing, that's the reason why we do the Wounded Warrior. That will never change. That advertisement will be with us forever, or that PSA. But one of the things that was suggested to us from one of our fellow patriots was we need to honor the fallen. And to be honest with you, and those that know me know, I'm a big guy, about 6'6", I'm gonna lie to you, I'm about 300 and something plus pounds. Big, huge linebacker. But to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through this segment. We're going to give it a shot and stuff. So this is something new that we're going to be doing here at the Midnight Patriot. We're going to be honoring every show. When we start the show, we are going to be honoring the fallen, is what we call it. So with that, let me first start and say, we'll just kind of go through the list. Now, you can actually join the Midnight Patriot on Facebook, and this list will also be provided as well. So first thing is October 13th, Army Staff Sergeant Patrick H. Quinn. October 6th, Army Sergeant Patrick C. Hawkins. October 6th, Army Captain Jennifer M. Marino. October 6th, Army Private First Class Cody J. Patterson. October 6th, Army Sergeant Joseph M. Peters. And October 5th, Lance Corporal Jeremiah M. Collins Jr. from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, just over the state. So our heartfelt condolences go out to those families. We just want to say thank you to those patriots who put on our nation's uniform and have paid the ultimate price for our freedom and our security. No matter what you guys believe, one thing that we all believe as patriots, that when a soldier dies, our country is diminished. But we understand the fight that they fight for us, and we appreciate it. We might not agree with the politicians and the people that put them in harm's way, but the fact that they are willing to do that for us is something that it's just unspeakable. I cannot tell you how much our heartfelt goes out to their families. You got to remember, these are husbands, fathers, daughters, wives, brothers, and sisters. There are families who will not have the benefit of having them in their lives anymore. And our country is diminished every time we lose a soldier. So with that, I just want to say thank you. God bless you. God bless your families. And we will always be here. If you are a soldier, if you put on the nation's uniform and you need our help at the Midnight Patriot for whatever reason, feel free to contact us. We'll do everything possible to help you. We do have connections with Wounded Warrior Project. And we will do everything in our hearts and in our power to get you the help and your family help that they need. So with that, I just want to say, we want to start the show off with that. The other thing too is that we wanted to kind of give an overview, kind of change topics. Well, I don't know how I switch up from that, but we got to move on. Life goes on. That's the way they would want it, and that's the way it needs to be. So, let's kind of switch topics to some other things that we're going to be doing at the beginning to kind of give you an idea of the state of the economy, because obviously our politicians aren't listening to us. So, I just want to kind of let you know what's going on out there in the economy. So we're actually going to, after we do our Fallen segment, we're actually going to go into the economy segment, which is basically, we're just going to tell you what's going on out there as far as layoffs, bankruptcies, and closings of businesses, so you're aware about how the politicians' decisions are affecting us, in our economy, and this is directly tied to what's going on with Obamacare, the mismanagement of our country's greatest resource, which is its talent, its people. And, we're starting to see it. So as of October 17th, a Virginia pilot laid off 32. 2K Martin, for all you guys that are gamers out there, BioShock, they did a large layoff. There isn't no number given yet, but basically they said in an interview with GameStop that they are laying off all of their developers, major developers. CHE Trinity Health just laid off 45 today in their IT department. Mount Clemens Community Schools laid off 12. Port San Antonio laid off 17. Wells Fargo and Company just laid off another 125 today. And of course, in the news, Lockheed Martin in their mission training group just laid off 600 yesterday. Path laid off 13, and Nexus International just laid off 700. So that just kind of lets you know what's going on. Forget about the numbers that you hear, our unemployment rates. If you factor in those that quit the labor pool, refuse to go back to work, we're in upwards of 19, 20%. And that's actually a great segue into what we're going to be talking about. Congress can sit around and pat themselves on the back and say, oh, we passed this. But the fact of the matter is we're hurting out here. We're hurting out in the great United States of America. And it's not going to get any better. All your economists, we have an unsustainable debt. Yesterday, Harvard, if you were listening to the show, Harvard came out and said that we have an independent study. And by the way, same college that President Barack Obama went to, Harvard Law. But their economists are saying that we have about $123,000 per working American debt right now. It was 56 when he came into office. Now we're at 123,000. So if the economy quit or the government shut down and we had to pay the debts, every working American would have to write a check for $123,000. So it's not getting any better. And we know what the problems are. I mean, we talk about it every day on our Facebook pages, on our blogs. You hear about it on the radio and the news and stuff. And so we know what the problem is. So today is a very important day because, we're bringing on Prepper Recon. Well, I should say Mark, a.k.a. Prepper Recon. And, we're going to talk about some solutions to the problem out there. I mean, we know what the problem is. Now let's kind of back up and talk about solutions. Hey, Mark, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, not a problem, man. I am so happy to have you here. I hear so much, when I talk to people and tell them what's going on, and sheeple, I don't know if you heard the conversation last night. We talked about sheeple, people that just kind of follow.
Are.
Yeah. And, and the first thing that, once I do wake them up and I say, look, the numbers are there, 123,000, pull out your checkbook right now and write a check for $123,000. Most people don't even have $123 in their bank account. And if they do, if you have it at Chase, you can't take it out. Apparently, they're starting to charge fees to take out your own money. But
they're starting capital controls.
Exactly. And the banks, you got to follow. I've always said, if you want to know what's going on, follow what the smart people are doing. And you're seeing a huge disinvestment in America. You're seeing the Bushes, they have their private island that they're out on. The banks are doing what they're doing. But the man on the street, the man and woman on the street, the first thing that they come back to me is, what can I do? And that's why I have you or asked you to be a part of this show. From a prep, we know what the problems are. What are forget about we're not going to be able to fix, you and I are not going to be able to fix the economic problems in the United States. But one of the things we can do is prepare our families. So that's why, I asked you to join the show, and I, thank you very much for being here, sharing your knowledge with our audience. What can you and I do? What can we do? Let's just start there. I throw you a curveball right off the bat. I mean, where do we start? I mean, a lot of us just don't even know where to start, even including myself.
Let me just start by saying when I sort of woke up, I think September 11th, 2001 woke a lot of us up and snapped us out of our normalcy bias. Normalcy bias is that thing that tells you, because something's never happened to me, even though I've read it in history books, it never can happen to me. And my normalcy bias got shaken on September 11th. And I realized, you know what? I'm not as safe as I thought I was. And then I think I sort of got lulled back to sleep a little bit. And then in 2008, I really saw how close we really came to a complete economic meltdown. And we've done nothing to repair any of the fundamentals that caused 2008. In fact, we've pretty much exacerbated all of the fundamentals that caused the crisis in 2008. Our banks were too big to fail. So what do? We merged them all into these too bigger to fail banks. They went from too big to fail to too big to bail now, and I guess they're also too big to jail, aren't they? But what I did is on my website, prepperrecon.com, I came up with a 7-step preparedness plan. And I tried to lay it out to where it would be prioritized so that somebody that knew absolutely nothing about prepping could go in there and get a little bit of an overview and prioritize their efforts. And each step I started with a B letter word, so that would be sort of easy to remember. And the first B is body, mind, and soul, because you're your number one survival tool. So for your body, you need to be in decent shape. Try to get to the gym a couple days a week, get a little exercise, even if it's just getting out and going for a walk. You need to be in decent shape, because when things go bad, especially when they go irrevocably bad, like you would see in a post-earthquake scenario or a post-hurricane scenario, a lot of times there's a lot of physical demand on your body, whether it's, removing limbs out of your driveway from a hurricane or digging people out of rubble from an earthquake or whatever it happens to be. A lot of times you need that strength at that time. And another part of that first step is your mind. And I think for your mind, one of the best things you can do is always be trying to learn new skills, because knowledge doesn't weigh anything. So whether you have to bug out or bug in and you're trying to store food and provisions and things like that, knowledge doesn't take up any space and it doesn't weigh anything. So it's easy to carry around and you can always have it with you. And then the third part of step 1 is their soul. I think people need to think about what's going to happen when they do die, because 10 out of 10 people die, no matter how good your survival plan is. And I believe faith in Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven. So folks need to decide what they believe and know why they believe it. And that's not something you want to be wrong about.
Absolutely.
And then go ahead.
Well, as I say, absolutely. I mean, we talk about, having faith, believing in Jesus as your Savior, believing in God, and everything. That's important, because there's times where you just, and I don't know about your life, but there's times where I just, forget about the disasters and everything that's coming, where how am I going to do this? It might be a loss of a job, might be a loss of a lost one, and I can tell you what works for me. I'm not going to tell you what works for you, but what works for me is when I say, hey, God, at your will. I'm at your will. Whatever you want me to do, I'll do. And to be honest with you, this show is from that. It was like, hey, look, you tired of, you hear that little voice in the back of your head, pick your boots up, forget about, what happened to you in the past, or, the fact that you lost your job or whatever, and move forward. And don't worry about it. I mean, I hear Rush Limbaugh, talent on loan from God. And there's times where I would never think that I would be able to communicate like I do for the long periods, but I know where that comes from. I don't want to take his coin phrase or whatever, but I know where my abilities and my skill come from, and I'm appreciative of that. So, I'm glad to hear you, and it is so refreshing to hear the fact that is part of your survival plan, and that you're actually educating, or that is tantamount to your plan, and everything. So. You mentioned body. This is something, I was actually on your website, actually on your Facebook page, and I saw that you have the book, Fat, Sick, and Tired. You highlighted that book. I will tell you, I did those drinks I've got the mind made up. I'm pretty good about the mind, but I can tell you about the body, I'm definitely lacking there. Too many McDonald's cheeseburgers and all those things, pizzas and stuff. But I will tell you, for those listeners out there, on Prepper Recon, on the Facebook page, also on the website, they highlighted a book called Fat, Sick, Tired, and Dying. Is that the name of it, Mark?
I think so. I think that's something that somebody else pasted on my page. I haven't read it myself yet, but I'm familiar with the concept, and I think it is a good book.
Well, you can actually, if you own Netflix, I watched it on Netflix about 2 months ago. And I can tell you, I did that juicing diet for about a month and a half to 2 months. I lost over 40 pounds.
Wow.
It was unbelievable. I was in the best mental, physical shape that I could possibly be in. And then I will tell you that then stress of life, finding out that I was going to lose my job because of the sequester, and the fact that I was going to lose my job because of Obamacare and all of those things, and the stress of life, I went back to the easy way. And I was looking at my juicer the other day after seeing it on your page, and I was like, oh, I got to get back into it. But I will tell my listeners, go out to Netflix if you got it, I will tell you flat out, I did it for about a month and a half, almost 2 months, and I lost over 40 pounds. And I was feeling great. I felt the best I did, but once again, I got sucked back into the Monsanto world and all of their poisons and stuff. So we talk about body, Mark, and stuff. And, what can we do? Yeah, I know you mentioned just walking and stuff. I mean, there are some other suggestions, things that we can do to kind of get our body, you said join a gym or do some exercise. But, what I'm sitting at home. I guess my question is this, because I know me. I'm sitting at home. What can I do right now to kind of help, get my body back in shape?
I'm probably not the one to ask for that, because I won't do anything in my house. If I'm going to the gym, once I get to the gym, I don't have anything else to do. So I pretty much have to work out once I'm there. But when I'm at home, I'll find something else to do, and I'll just never do it.
Sure.
But you could just do push-ups and sit-ups. And what I do is in the mornings when I wake up, I start by stretching for about 10 minutes, because I've got arthritis, and it's not super bad, but just 10 minutes of stretching in the morning kind of loosens me up and gets me a little bit more mobile. And I'll say another thing about it is whether it's walking or jogging or bike riding or whatever your activity that you enjoy doing is, it relieves a lot of stress too. So that's also good for your mind. And so it's got dual benefits. One of the things I just started doing at my gym is they have a cardio kickbox class, and it's not real kung fu type stuff. It's a lot more cardio than anything else. But you are doing some kicks and you are throwing some punches and some things like that. So you're de-stressing, you're getting the cardio workout, and you're training your memory muscle in case you ever are in a conflict where you do need to rely on your feet or your hands to defend yourself.
Sure. It's kind of funny. We watch the zombie movies, and Sandy and I will be watching them, and the first thing she says. So maybe this is my wake up call. I think a lot of people, even my doctors, told me that I need to get back in shape and everything, because she's like, look, the good news is you're going to get eaten first. And that might give, so I mean, we're kind of realistic in our family and stuff. So maybe that's her wake up call. Say, hey, Jeff, you need to get back on the juice diet and start exercising a little bit more. So and it's amazing. You got to hear other people. We tend not to listen to those around us, and we listen to other people and everything. So hopefully after the show, and I know she's listening, so she'll be laughing when I get home tonight after the show. Say, I told you so. So we talked about the body, we talked about the mind, or we talk a little bit about mind. Where the internet is so inundated with prepping and stuff. And to be honest with you, most of the listeners, most of the people that I talk to, I don't want to say listeners of the show, the Patriots and stuff, because they're pretty well educated. I find out Patriots, and actually, I don't know if you know this, but there was a study by Yale that proves this, that Tea Party members are actually smarter in the sciences than liberals. That came out today. So it's kind of funny, ironic that we're talking about the mind and Patriots and stuff. But most of us out there in the community, their exposure to prepping is, the History Channel, the preppers. And unfortunately,
there's almost as many bad examples on there as there are good examples.
Exactly. And that was the thing that actually kind of turned me off. You know, I would watch those shows and I'm like, these guys really? I mean, you know, you got to prepare and you got to plan. There's nothing but, you know, it was almost a neurosis, you know, when I was watching the show. And I guess, so when I talk to people about prepping and preparing, you know, non-patriots, they get it. You don't have to explain to them, but non-patriots, what kind of advice would you have for those that are out there that aren't part of the patriot movement of the community, that haven't really educated themselves, and their only exposure to prepping is what they see in mainstream media?
Well, you know what? Prepping isn't for the people that need it. It's for the people that want it, because everybody needs it. Because, like you said in the opening of the show, we're on an unsustainable path. We cannot continue to borrow and spend in the manner in which we're doing without a complete and total currency collapse. It's no currency and no fiat currency in the world has ever lasted, and we're in the final stages of ours, I think. And so I think the number one thing you need to do is wake people up to the need, and until you do that, everything else is just going to be wasted, pearls before swine, you know. Sure.
And I guess go ahead.
But then after that, I'll just run through the 7 B's real quick, and I won't get real in depth to them, and then we'll go back over them later if we've still got time. The first B letter word was the body, mind, and soul, and then number 2 is your budget. You got to get financially responsible and get control of your money the best you can. And then number 3 is really the first thing that people would think of a traditional step in prepping, and that's the bug out bag. And a bug out bag is, and this is probably a good answer to your question, this is where you start, I think. After you've got your body, mind, and soul and your budget worked out, you get your bug out bag. And now that bug out bag is going to have everything in it that you need to survive for 72 hours. It's going to have 72 hours worth of food. It's going to have a small hygiene kit. It's going to have a small first aid kit. I would recommend getting a flash drive and putting all of your important papers, scan all of those and put them on that flash drive, and all of your bank accounts and all your personal information, insurance information, phone numbers, put everything on that flash drive, and you can even encrypt that. There's a free encryption program called TrueCrypt, and I think if you Google TrueCrypt, it's going to come right up, and it's pretty easy to learn. It'll take you about 10-15 minutes to figure it out, and put it on your flash drive and put an encryption key on there to where nobody else can get to it except you. So you're going to have that. You're going to have your food, a little tent. And you could put a sleeping bag, and you can roll that up and tie it to the bottom of your bag usually, and then a way to start fire, and something to hold water and something to purify water, because water is one of the things that you have to have, and you can't go very long without it. So make sure that you've got, and I recommend the Catadine. The Hiker Pro is about $79 or $80, and it'll filter something like 2,000 or 3,000 gallons of water before you have to change the filter. And so if you've got that little bug out bag, it's also a bug in bag, because you have 3 days worth of food in there. You know you have a little medical kit. You know you have a little backup hygiene kit in case there's some type of epidemic that you can't leave your house for 3 days. Then you don't have to worry about running out of soap or something. You know you have at least a 3-day supply in that bag of everything that you need, that you can make it without leaving the house or going to the grocery store or something for 3 days. So I think that's probably a good place to start, is the bug out bag.
Sure. And I think that's important. And, one of the other things, you talked about encryption. I think it's very important, whatever encryption you go with, make sure it's PGP encryption.
Okay.
So that is something that, I'm pretty familiar with and stuff. But it's important that you talked about water. Now Sandy and I, we went to Costco when I first started prepping myself and everything. We went to Costco, and they have the pails which are a 1 month supply of food for an adult for 1 month. So, that's where we started. But one of the things that you realize really quick, and I will tell you this, we've actually eaten food out of them just to kind of see what they're like. So we actually had about 6 months supply. Now we're down to about 4 months. We actually enjoy the food. We call it nuclear macaroni and stuff. We have different names for the kids and stuff. But to try it, to see what it's like, to get to understand how to prepare it. But one thing that's critical in all of those is you're absolutely right. Water. And I think that's very critical in how you're going to get water, because they all need water in order for you to cook the food. And I'm glad that you said that. And then, you talked about your budget, getting your house in order now. That's important, obviously. One of the things that actually just happened to me this week on Monday, I went to the gas station and I went to go use my debit card. It didn't work. I was like, well, excuse me? Yeah, it didn't work. So then I had to drive to my bank. And of course they couldn't help me because the company that actually, that controls the card, I had to call their call center and all this, and come to find out there was I did a purchase for Adobe. We use auto software, audio editing software. So I bought the Adobe. Well, apparently Adobe's system got hacked. I got the letter like 2 days ago telling me this. So if I was out in the middle of nowhere, or if I needed that money, I didn't have access to my own bank account. I think it's very critical that. So how do we address that? What's your plan there?
Oh, I think you have to keep at least 1 month of your entire expenses in cash somewhere on the premises of your home, whether it's in a safe or you dig a little hole in the backyard or under your mattress or wherever. The mattress is probably not really the best place. It's probably the safe or the backyard's probably going to be better. But you got to have some cash outside of the banking system. And I think you were talking about at the beginning of the show about Chase, and they're going to be limiting the amount of cash withdrawals that business accounts can take. They're also limiting, they've completely shut down the ability for their business customers to transfer cash outside of America. And, those sound like government capital controls to me. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, it is. I mean, I don't know. I think in our first show, we actually talked about there is a written law, that whole part of the Patriot Act that was written in about the $10,000 and how you can transfer and stuff. But the government, probably need to play the video, but there was a grocery store in New Jersey. Well, there's several stores. If you're even a small business owner, the government actually came in and took their bank account because they said that they were doing irregular bank transactions. Because I guess the law is that if you do over $10,000, it's got to be reported to the government. Well, these people were always depositing $999,000 or $9,995 or whatever it was. So the government saw that as a road. So they came in and actually shut them down. I probably need to play that audio for our listeners. So forget about Chase, forget about the banks and stuff. The government can come in and take your account. And what's even more scary, I don't know if you read the actual Obamacare law, but there is a provision in there where it allows the government to look at your credit score and allows the insurance company to adjust your premium based upon your credit score, number one. Number two, they can look at your credit score as they're rendering services to see your ability to pay the deductibles or the co-pays or whatever. And then number three, it gives them, you read the law. I've actually read the 7,200 pages.
Wow.
I went through it with a highlighter. And then the third part of that is it allows the government at any time to come in and take the money out of your account. If you don't pay the penalty or if you don't have insurance, they don't have to give you notice. They can just come in there and take that money out of your account at any given time. So I think you're correct. Now, it's interesting to hear you say about cash or money and stuff. No gold, no silver.
Well, yeah, I do, and I get to that. That's a couple of steps down the road. Step number 4 is beans, and that's just sort of the thing that represents all the stored food, because it's the B letter word. And you mentioned that you guys bought the long-term storage food, and that's great. And it's great that you got it out and you saw what it was like and you ate it. And you have to test your preps. You have to know that they're going to work before game day. So that's really, really important thing to do. And I believe in storing what you eat and eating what you store. But that also ensures that you're always rotating things. I don't really buy a lot of the long-term storage food, but that is such a great thing especially for anybody that doesn't have a lot of time to think about what they're going to put together. For anybody that's on a limited budget, you can get a 5-gallon bucket, and it could be an old paint bucket. And you can get a Mylar liner, which they sell on Amazon. I think they sell 10 of them for $20, and they come with oxygen absorbers. And you can put a 20-pound bag of rice in there, and about 12 pounds of beans in there, dried beans. And the 20-pound bag of rice you can get at Walmart for about $7, and the beans are about $1 a pound. So you're talking for under $20. You can fill up that 5-gallon bucket full of rice and beans, and that'll last you about 20 days for one person. If you count out the calories, that's about 20 days worth of food in that 20-gallon bucket. That 5-gallon bucket. And you just take an iron and you run it across the top of the Mylar with a little board that you could use like an ironing board. And that'll seal that, and with that oxygen absorber in there, your rice would normally last 20 years. That'll add about another 5 or 10 years to the rice storage, and your beans will last about 10 years, and that'll add a couple more years to the storage on the beans. So that bucket could just sit there for 12 years and still be fine 12 years later.
Sure. Now,
and a good thing about beans is they've got a lot of protein, a lot of fiber. So that's a really, really good survival food. And rice. And now when people buy rice, a lot of people, they want to be healthy and they'll buy the brown rice. And that's great for your everyday eating. But for long-term storage, you want to get parboiled rice. I recommend that first, or white rice, because the brown rice still has the bran on it, and the bran has fat in it, and it'll rot. So it'll only last about 2 years, maybe 3. But it's not really it's more nutritious because of the bran on it, but it's not as good of a long-term storage food. And the parboiled rice is steamed with the bran still on it, and that pushes some of the nutrients into the rice when they remove the husk with that steaming process. So I like parboiled the best.
Sure. Now, do you keep the beans in the right, in their original packaging and then put that inside, or do you take them out of their original packaging?
No, leave them in their original packaging.
Okay. Didn't know if okay. So you do that, and then, now how storage, tell me, I hear, like, one of the things when I bought ours, like I said, from Costco, the local guy, we paid, almost 3 times that. It was about, I think it's not, you can still, I was looking on the web the other day, you can still get them for $99. That's the full meal and stuff. But one of the things that they stress is storage temperature. I think that's important. And then, I guess the way you store. Can we talk about that?
Yeah, if you keep it in a cool, dry area, it's going to store the longest. And just if you have to keep it in the garage and it's a little hotter, it's going to knock a little bit of your storage time off of there. But that Mylar is really, really going to seal it good, and it's going to keep the oxygen and the light out, and that's the most important things. And most people aren't going to have it sitting out in direct sunlight anyway. So. Sure.
So, we live in Wisconsin, so it's about 42 degrees. Our basement's here.
That's perfect.
Yeah, our basements, I think, being a Wisconsin person, obviously, we kind of tend to like our beer, and, I'm a home brewer on the side and stuff. So, I think our basements stay 68 to 72 year round. Is that pretty good? Is that perfect?
That's perfect. Okay. Yeah. Basement's a great area to have. Here in Florida, we can't have basements because we're 2 feet above sea level, so
Gotcha.
it'd be a in-ground pool if we had a basement.
Absolutely. So, all right. So we talked about mind, body, spirit. We talked about, the beans and stuff. Next step?
The bullets. Now that you've got your 72-hour kit, you've got a little food. You've managed to squirrel away at least a month's worth of expenses, and you're keeping that in cash in your home. Now you got to defend all this stuff, right? Because nobody else on your block got prepared, and it just hit the fan. So they're all going to be on your porch, and they might be nice about it on day one when you say no, but on day 2 they might not. So you're going to have to be able to defend all that stuff.
Yeah, which is really sad, because I actually had friends that told me that they're going to come over and kill me and take my food. I mean,
yeah,
at least they're honest about it. But
and it's terrible. But if they probably will try if you're not ready and willing to defend yourself and your family.
Sure.
And
sure.
It's like the ant and the grasshopper story. I don't know if you remember that.
No.
The grasshopper laughed and played the fiddle all summer, and then he was laughing at the ants who were getting ready for winter, and they were stocking up and storing away. And then when fall came, he went to the ants' house and knocked on the door and said, "Hey, can I come in?" And they're like, "No, sorry, we just stored enough for us." But it's an old. I think it's an Aesop's. It's one of Aesop's fables.
An old Aesop.
Actually.
Well,
Yeah.
it is funny that we bring this up, because I do remember one of the first episodes I saw of Preppers on the History Channel when they were showing it was up in New Jersey. There was a family, that had everything else, had the garden, had the community, everything, but didn't have the guns. They were not they were anti-gun.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. And it was funny because one of the young couples that was part of their group, I remember watching it, basically told the cameraman, said, yeah, kind of like my friends, I'm just going to go over there and kill them. I mean, they actually said that on History Channel. So it was, and
Wow.
that was like, that was my first experience of the Prepper Show. And I was like, oh, here we go. Here's mainstream media taking a good idea and distorting it. And then, letting, kind of saying, oh, don't worry about it, but it's just kind of crazy. But bullets are very important. I mean, with the bullets, everybody that's in as a Patriot knows that ammunition has been hard to find. I know that it's starting to hit the shelves now. It's pretty much readily available. I mean, where's a good source of getting ammunition?
Well, I've got a link to Lucky Gunner on PrepperRecon.com. And it just says Lucky Gunner. It's yellow and green. You can click that, and they've usually got just about everything. I think they even have 22 right now, which is really hard to find still, I think.
Sure. I mean, I used to buy my ammo, before I actually have a press. So we manufacture a lot of our own, but I know that Notches, Cheaper Than Dirt, is another company. Give them all free plugs here and stuff. I know that they're pretty reasonable as well. And one of the things, and I think our listeners need to know this, especially those that are Second Amendment, and also the 3% and stuff. Walmart, obviously, I used to go there and buy my ammo there until I was educated about how most of the money that goes from the ammo sales at Walmart actually goes into the Mayors Against Guns campaign. So just kind of let you guys know about that. But so ammunition and everything. So do you reload your own, or you just buy it already sealed?
No, well, we just buy it. I haven't gotten into all of that yet. I don't have the space for it right now, but hopefully someday I will.
Sure. Now, is there any special consideration for storing ammo?
Well, if you get it in the dry boxes, if you get it in the military boxes, those have a little seal on it, which will keep the moisture away from them, and most things should be pretty good with that.
Sure. Now, being in Wisconsin, we're a concealed carry state. just got our concealed carry about 2 years ago. What about your proficiency? I mean, all right, so I've got my gun, I have my food, I have my weapon, or to protect my family. One of the things I see is your proficiency level with that. Obviously, with any other tool, I think you have to become proficient, shouldn't you? What's your recommendations?
Yeah, you have to train. Yeah, so when you're buying your ammo, I think there's 4 prepper favorites that people have for guns. I think most people think that a prepper should have a large capacity semi-automatic pistol, something that's concealable, but still a medium or large framed gun like a Glock. And then whatever caliber you'd like is the one you should get in that. And then I think shotgun is a great home defense weapon, and it's versatile, and it can also be used for hunting. And that ammunition seemed to be pretty readily available, even through the last scare after the school shooting. And then I think, especially for Patriots, I think that Patriots should have a battle rifle. And whatever you like, whether it's an AK or an AR, whatever your preference is, I think that's. I don't think the Second Amendment's about a right. I think that the way the Second Amendment reads, I think it's about a duty, and I think it's about a responsibility. And I think that our forefathers had in mind for us to be able to stand up to a tyrannical government, and that's why they put that amendment in the Bill of Rights. So I think that it's a duty for a patriot to have a battle rifle, and whichever one you like. But now for your battle rifle, I think that people should have a minimum of 1,000 rounds just for storage. I think if you're in a firefight beyond 1,000 rounds, you've either taken out enough people that you can take their ammo, or you're not here anymore, so it's not an issue once you're beyond that 1,000 rounds. And then you probably need some to train with, whatever you need to train with to become proficient with that firearm. And then also I think it's good to have a concealed carry weapon as well.
Sure.
I think the Ruger LC9, that's a good one, or they also have the Ruger also makes a 38. But there's lots of good small concealed carry weapons.
Yeah, when I was putting my gun list together and everything, I looked at what the law enforcement, what the military was carrying. I mean, obviously, there's a reason why they're carrying those things and stuff. And so I went with the AR over the AK. And I, my thing is that if it did hit the fan, you got to look at, like you said, you can only store so much ammo. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to have to take ammo here and there. And so I, kind of looked at what would be accessible if I needed to be. And that was my determination. But like you said, it's completely up to the individual. But, at least you should have something, as opposed to nothing. In that mm-hmm. regard. Now, we talked about the Second Amendment, and it's curious to say. I don't know. We talked about this last night with our guests. If you go to the Senate website, mm-hmm. it's amazing. They have an explanation, and it's not written for school kids. It was actually written, I think, for adults because it is somewhat of a higher level English and stuff. And it's amazing what they say about the Second Amendment. This is still open for debate. I mean, they list the amendments in their entirety, and then they give an explanation next to them. And on the Senate's webpage, they clearly say, well, this is still open for debate. And that was just shocking, completely shocking. I'm a firm believer. There's a reason why they want the ARs and as they would classify the black guns. I think there's definitely a reason of that. So, we spend the last 50 minutes. We got through step 4? Are we at 4?
Yeah, we were on step 5 with bullets, and then step 6 is the one you mentioned earlier, and that's bullion. That's our B-letter word for having some alternative currencies. And now I want to mention too that ammo will likely be an alternative currency when it hits the fan, because it's divisible, it's standardized, and it has a utility, and it's made out of metals. It's a brass, lead, copper alloy, so that might be the precious metal post-collapse. But I think for long-term wealth preservation, because I don't think anybody thinks that we're going to go on a collapse and stay there. At least I hope not. And when we come out on the other side, I think that bullion will have been the best way to have preserved your wealth through the collapse. There might not be a lot of things to buy with it during the collapse, so you probably need to have your food and your ammo and the things that you need to get through to the other side prior to it. But after the collapse, I think that bullion will have proved to have been a good way to preserve your wealth. And I think that people should start with silver because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to acquire. It's more divisible. If you get a 1 ounce gold eagle, you've basically got a $1,300 bill, right now. And post-collapse, it'll probably be double that. So let's say you have a $2,500 bill. Nobody's got change for that. But now silver, it's a little bit more divisible. If you've got a 1 ounce silver eagle, you've got right now about a $25 bill. So that's a little bit more conducive to barter.
Sure.
Is silver.
Well,
so I think that you start with silver, maybe your first 5,000 in silver, and then after that start splitting it half and half in gold. And then when you do start buying the gold, I recommend paying the little bit higher premium to get the 1/4 ounce eagles or get the 1/4 ounce maple leafs as opposed to buying the whole ounce.
Sure. Now, this is the one thing that I've always had a hard time with. I mean, I understand, the purchase of gold, the purchase of silver, and it's important. I think you stress that that's as we're coming out as a post kind of thing, because one of the comments or observations I make is that, if it hits the fan and you got to bug out, you're not, you go and you need food for your family. Are you really going to be able to buy that with a gold bar? Most people are going to probably want to barter. You watch the modern shows where alcohol, and like you said, bullets and alcohol. It seems like those seem to be more of during the crisis, those seem to be more of a bartering chip than the actual gold and silver and stuff. So I guess that's one of my concerns. One of the things that we did, being that we are a home brewer, so we know how to make alcohol. So we joke about it as like, hey, I'm safe there. But the other thing too is that we actually bought a vehicle specifically designed for E85, because we can make our own fuel for that vehicle. And there was a great book. I remember listening to a show years ago. I believe it was on Coast to Coast AM, actually, with George Norrie, where he had a gentleman on there. It was he wrote a book and they had a video set called Alcohol as a Gas. So he explains that whole process of turning vegetable matter into alcohol that you can then burn in your car as E85 or E100 at that point, and everything. So that's important. So all right, so we got our beans, we got our house, our personal life in order, we got our ammo, we got our bullion. What's next?
And the next thing, I think you need a bug out location. And then that's the final step. But I think that in case things do get to the point where you're not able to stay in your area any longer, you need to already know where you're going to go. And the national forest is not a good place because everybody's thinking that. And they're going to have all the deer killed in the first 3 weeks, so you're not going to be living off the fat of the land going and bugging out to the national forest because everybody's going to try to do that. And so you need to either have a predetermined place that you're going to go stay with relatives. Maybe James Wesley Rawls always calls them the country cousins that you're going to go stay with, or start thinking about buying a couple of acres and a fifth wheel that you can throw on the back of your truck or your car and just tow up there and kind of be out of the cut for a little while until things settle down. But I think we've already seen a little bit of a preview with the things that we can probably expect in the cities. Detroit's a great example. They're already in almost a post-collapse scenario. It takes 58 minutes on average for 911 to respond to high priority calls in Detroit.
Well, and
I think that's what we're going to be looking at in all of the cities, because everybody's making budget cuts and everybody's laying off more and more police officers and fire departments and medical. And you need to be able to have some proficiency in taking care of those three things yourself. Have a fire extinguisher to be able to put out a small fire in your house, and have some advanced medical equipment. And if that's in your bug out bag, you already have it. You know exactly where it is. Yeah. And then being able to defend yourself, like we talked about with bullets, for when police and EMS and the fire department can't get there for an hour or two.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's, you're talking about 58 minutes in a normal setting. Well, Detroit, I don't know if it's normal, but when you have natural disaster, I think you can pretty much count on. Look at what happened with Hurricane Sandy in New Jersey and stuff. They said those houses burned for a day to 2 days because they just let them burn. I live literally. My home is literally about 32 miles outside of Chicago, Illinois. So, and everybody, you only have to be in Wisconsin for about a week to notice that we get perforated with Illinois license plates come Friday through Sunday. And then they kind of move down, and that's enough to drive our traffic crazy on our interstates. They're actually putting in 4 lanes now to handle that traffic load. So I can only imagine what would happen if you had a natural disaster or some kind of situation in an urban, in that type of setting. I mean, you're absolutely correct. That you need to have a place to go. I mean, we would be just swamped. I think that we would definitely have to leave. And it's interesting here because we were sitting there looking on Craigslist, because one of the things that we are looking at is getting an RV or a fifth wheel to pull behind our, to store our food. And also, we want to take our show on the road as well. So we were looking. So I noticed you said fifth wheel. Is that because of some design or some preference or versus just a standard RV?
No. I think whatever works for you. I think that a trailer is going to be. I think it's a better investment, because I think when you get a regular RV where actually everything's all one thing, I think that now you have a truck that's dedicated just to pulling around the attached trailer that's all constructed into one thing. And for me, it just makes more sense to have a truck and then something that has the normal utilities of a truck, and then something that can be pulled by a truck, any type of trailer.
Sure.
I think that makes more sense economically. But for people where money's not an issue, or if for somebody like you that's going to go and take a show on the road and you're going to be living out of it all the time, then maybe an RV is better.
Yeah, we're kind of looking, and that was the thing, and those are my arguments too, is that if we use this, at least we could detach it and use the vehicle by itself, and we, driving through and everything. So that was one of the arguments. But then again, I guess there's 2 parts. Any ATVs, any backup vehicles such as that, should we own those?
Well, I would definitely say to have one of those, especially if you're going to have the RV where you can't detach and run. And now that you've got me thinking about it, I really like the truck pulling the trailer model, because if you have a fuel issue where gasoline's not available, or you can't manufacture your own E85 fast enough or whatever, and you have to ditch and run, you have that option with the truck. And even with an ATV, you're not going to get too far without gas. And maybe with the truck, you could throw a couple of cans in the back, and it'll get you a little further away from the disaster faster. Sure. But you'll always have that option of pulling the pin and leaving the trailer if you had to.
All right. Hey, I was looking at the clock, Mark. Can you go another hour? I've got so many more questions for you.
I can go a few more minutes.
Okay. Well, then,
but I'll tell you what, we'll definitely do it again next Thursday.
We can do it next Thursday. Well, then let's just kind of blow through this. Like I said, what's really nice about the fact that we, the syndicate and the network, we're not getting the ad feeds right now. So we can just continue. So, because I still have some more questions for you. And because these are the questions that people are asking me and everything. So, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because like I said, I tend to listen to the experts, people that like yourself, people that are put the thought process to. I'm still learning myself and everything. But one of the things I've been telling people, especially with correct me if I'm wrong here, with the banks and everything that's going on in financials and stuff, your money, I had, a very well-known author on about a month ago, Ellen Brown, and she's talking about the private banking, and we talked about the Federal Reserve as our first interview that we actually did. And one of the things that's come apparent to me is that your money's just not safe sitting in a bank. I mean, Chase is saying that they're going to do what they're going to do. The government's saying that they can come and do it. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is, instead of, everything that you listed, property, RV, food and stuff, those are tangibles. So I'm kind of stressing to my friends and family, take your money out of the bank and get those tangibles, buy that property, buy that RV, buy that, and I know it's contradictory to Dave Ramsey. He's like, oh, save your money and invest in the future. But I don't think the financial future is going to be here. I think it's just a place that you throw your money in and the government can come and take you. What's your opinions on that?
Well, if you look at the track record for things like gold versus the U.S. dollar, let's think about a $5 Indian head coin from 1929. That's a quarter ounce of gold, and it was worth $5 in 1929. So gold versus that $5 face value, the gold's outperformed it by 6,500%, and that's about 84 years. So it's 77% inflation per year averaged out over the 84 years from 1929, when $5 was a quarter ounce of gold, and to now when $5 is a piece of paper that says Federal Reserve note on the top. And I think we all know what a note is. If you have a note on your house, what is it? It's a debt instrument. And if you have a note on your car, what is it? It's a debt instrument. So we went from something that has value, that people have to put effort into to mine out of the ground, to being our money, to now they don't even have to print it on the paper anymore. It's just a keystroke in a computer. Well,
yeah. I mean, listen to. I don't know if you had a chance, but like I said, we did that interview with Ellen Brown. You have to listen. I mean, exactly what you just said.
Now, is she the woman that wrote the book about the Fed?
Yes. She wrote,
and she's got another video out about the coming derivatives time bomb too. That one might be a couple of years old, but
exactly.
It's really good what she says in that.
She actually wrote too the Web of Debt, which was her first book, was what we talked about, where she it's a great book. All my listeners out there, you really need to listen. She takes the issues of the Federal Reserve, kind of gives you a little historical background of the Federal Reserve, and then ties that into the classic Wizard of Oz. And educated me, with the fact that the Wizard of Oz, Bloom's book, was actually talking about the ruby slippers weren't actually ruby slippers in the book; they were silver. He was a big silver part of that movement, and obviously the Scarecrow represented the farmer, the Tin Men represented the industrial, and great book. But then, more importantly, she's a huge advocate of private banks, public banks, not private banks, public banks, which are owned by the governments. And she has the public banking sector. She owns that, or has that group. And, she was talking about, Montana, I believe, they have public banks, and, and how they're doing very well. So she lays out some very, cognitive solutions to our financial problems, but obviously it's going against the big banks and everything. And, obviously, we talk a lot about, which is a whole nother topic we can get into, what LaRouche and those guys are doing with the Glass-Steagall Act, getting that reinstated. We've been talking with Paul Gallagher and everything. But, so like I said, what I've been telling my friends and family is take your money out of the bank. Don't keep it there because it could disappear. We can have a bank holiday anytime, and then buy real tangible products like you were saying. Buy your land. Do you know what the ratio says? I have a family of 4, right? So I've got 2 teenagers. I know that I went to a couple sites and they said teenagers under the age of this age need this much calories, adults at this age need this much. So a family of 4, do you know what the ratio, how much land should we have to actually, if we wanted to farm that land to kind of support ourselves? Do you know those numbers?
I don't, and it's going to depend on what you want to do. Chickens are going to take up a certain amount of area, and vegetable gardens are going to take up a certain amount of area. Cows are going to need a lot more area for grazing than, say, goats. So it depends on what you're going to use for meat. But Jack Spirko over at the Survival Podcast does a whole lot of shows on permaculture and the way that animals and vegetables and everything can kind of work together, because if you have the cows or you have some manure producing animal to help supplement your soil, it's going to be much more sustainable, because you might not be able to get fertilizer and then but I'll tell you what, you can do an awful lot on 2 or 3 acres, and you could probably feed a family of 4 on 3 acres if it was all used wisely and
sure.
And that's another thing that's got a learning curve is, when I started growing it, I'm from Kentucky originally, and I live in South Florida now, and we're looking to maybe get back up in that direction because we're trying to get out of here.
Sure.
But it was a big learning curve for me to try to learn to garden in South Florida, because the soils, we don't have soil for number one. It's all sand. So I have to have raised bed gardens, and I compost everything, my grass clippings and banana peels and coffee grounds and everything. I compost all of that to create my own soil to put in those raised beds that go over the sand, and then there's still just a limited amount of things that I can grow here.
Sure. Which actually,
that's a learning.
Well, you're fortunate, because where we live, actually, you have to have a permit to within city limits to have a garden.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's great. Each municipality is different and stuff, but yeah, that doesn't mean we did a small garden in the back, and everything. I'm not. Come and give me my ticket, officer. Yeah. Because the reality of it is that it is what it is. They're not. There's so many other things that they be worried about. But yeah, in our community, in order to have a garden, technically you're supposed to have a permit to do that and stuff. So we determined 3-4 acres is fine. Now it's interesting you say, because I'd never thought about that, because I always thought having a farm animal would be somewhat of a, would be difficult, because now you got to feed and water them. But it's very interesting, because like I said, I never really thought about that chickens are some kind of animal to produce the fertilizer that you need to sustain your agricultural efforts and stuff. So that's news to me. So I'm glad that I asked that question and stuff. So, man, we have covered a lot, in a short hour. We're already an hour and 10 minutes into the conversation here at the Midnight Patriot. If you have any other questions, feel free to go out to prepperrecon.com. Is that correct, Mark?
That's correct. And then I also do a weekly podcast. It's called the Prepper Recon Podcast, and that goes up every Friday. Sure. This week's guest is going to be Bernie Carr, which is the apartment prepper, and we're going to talk a lot about of things that would, for people that have to prep in small spaces. So that's going to be a good show for that. And then also, I'd like to let everybody know that I did just write a new book. It's called American Exit Strategy, Book 1 of the Economic Collapse Chronicles. And that is it's a near-future dystopian fiction that looks at some of the real economic challenges that we're facing and some of the real political challenges that we're facing. and there's a family, and it goes from a family that's here in Florida that they find out that their preps weren't quite as adequate as they thought they were, and then they have to bug out and figure out how to make things work after we start seeing the first cracks in the facade, because I think that we'll probably have this sort of a slow grind when we really start seeing things fall apart. And then book 2 is going to really chronicle the complete total collapse and the government takeovers and things like that. But book 1 gets all the background into it, and also in book 1 we see a third-party candidate, and his name is Paul Randall. I think if you transposed his first and last name, you might be able to figure out who was my influence for that character. And he rises up to try to fight back against the welfare and the warfare spending to try to get us back on a sustainable path. And it's a 3-way election, and things kind of turn out a little funny. But I think that your listeners would really enjoy the book, and it's a good way to wake people up. You were asking me earlier about what do you do to wake up people that don't really see the need to prepare. So it's got a lot of things in it. It's got a lot of numbers in it that are, I think, pretty modest projection of what the numbers are going to look like in 4 or 5 years if we keep on the path that we're on.
Well, I think anybody that reads it, I mean, just look at recent history. I mean, you don't have to go back that far in history. Number one is, when you look at the Great Depression, you had about 20% were city dwellers. You had about 80% that was agriculture. And even under the Great Depression, you had about 2 million people die of starvation.
Now the demographics are exactly opposite.
Exactly. I mean, look at what happened down in Louisiana. The EBT system. Now, granted, you had the thief mentality going on down there, but I mean,
that's been fostered by our government, by the handouts.
Yeah.
We've taught those people that they're not responsible for their self, and that all they have to do is show up and vote Democrat every 4 years, and we'll take care of them.
Yeah.
And so they've been taught for multiple generations now that they're not responsible for taking care of themselves, that somebody else is going to take care of them. So when they don't get taken care of, they lash out at everybody around them because whoever's fault it is, it's not theirs.
Well, it's that classic video that we actually played, or the audio that we put on here with the lady that has the 15 kids who is getting people are providing for her, people are helping her and stuff, and she's still standing there going, who's going to take care of my kids? Who's going to be responsible for my kids? I mean, we play it nonstop because it's so poignant. But, look at, like I said, when the EBT system went down, and I don't care what people say, that EBT system went down. And I don't know if you agree with me or not, but the EBT system went down as a shot across the bow saying, hey, look, if you don't play ball with us and pass the debt ceiling and get the government back open, this is what you can expect. And within 20 minutes, a Walmart was completely gutted from floor to ceiling of food, from people rating that.
Yeah, that's why you got to get prepared before it happens, because when it happens, it's too late. 2 hours, it was cleared out. Most cities have about 3 days worth of food in them. So, and then that can all be cleared off the shelf in 2 hours. So you either get it before you need it, just like insurance, or you don't get it at all. So people need to prepare now.
Sure. So, hey, Mark, I know your time is precious. You got, other things going on and stuff. I appreciate it. Of course, can we get links to your book, to your podcast? We'll definitely like to broadcast those out and get those out there to our audience as well, because obviously it's very important. We talk about problems all the time here at the Midnight Patriot, and this is our solution part of the programming that we want to do, is also, hey, look, this is what we can do as a solution. So Mark, it's been wonderful. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your evening and spending it with us and our listeners. And, I look forward to it. I know we talked about doing a weekly kind of update and kind of like a survival guide every week and stuff. Are you still up for that? Or?
Absolutely, Jeff. I'll be back here as much as possible every Thursday.
Oh, wonderful, man. I'll put it. Hey, make sure you send us links to your books and everything. We'll get those out there.
Absolutely.
You got one.
Exit Strategy. American Exit Strategy actually has its own website, so you can just go to AmericanExitStrategy.com, and that's got links to purchase the book either from the paperback from CreateSpace, which is an Amazon company, or you can purchase it from Amazon through the Kindle store there, or you can just look it up on Amazon, and you can just type in American Exit Strategy, and it'll pop right up. And then the podcast is on prepperrecon.com, and it'll just be in the regular blog post every Friday and Saturday, or there's a corner that says podcast where you can go back and listen to the archives.
Sure. Right, man, I appreciate it. Be well, and Godspeed to you. And we'll be in touch. We'll give you a shout. I look forward to. I'll have a list of questions. Hopefully, we'll get some more questions for you and for next Thursday. But hey, thanks, Mark, for having a great day. This is Mark with Prepper Recon. You can go to his website at prepperrecon.com. Also, look at his books. Now, we will, if you come to the MidnightPatriot.com, we will actually have links and have some advertisement out there for him in his book. So be well, Mark. You have a great night.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on the show, and congratulations on the new show. I love it. I think it's a great thing that you're doing. Thank you.
So with that, man, it's just been a really, really great time. It's amazing. I was looking back at the at the list. We're at show number 8. We've grown so much, and the way that we're going to grow the show is to get caliber guests on, such as Mark, and to promote what they're doing and everything. But if you'd like to be a guest here at the Midnight Patriot, all you have to do is give us a call, or friend us on Facebook, shoot me a message. Speaking of guests, next week, I just want to let you know that we have actually a Russian-born author, and he wrote a book. He'll be joining us next week. Jake, he's in our event section of the MidnightPatriot.com. He's actually going to firsthand. One of the things we're huge about is if you want to, deal with situations, you got to get experts. You got to get people that have been there, done that, and that's why we try to pull the experts into the conversation. And we've been very fortunate to get those like Mark and Jake and Ellen Brown and Paul Gallagher of the LaRouche pack, and get them into the conversation. These are heavy hitters, in the prepping and in the Patriot community, and we're going to continue to do. I know that we've talked to some other individuals. I won't let you know who they are because we're still firming up their interviews and their guest appearances on the show. But I can tell you, they are some heavy hitters. These are the people in the industry, or I would say in the community, not the industry, but the community, who are affecting change and getting the message out there and stuff. So you're listening. I'm going to take a break. It's been about, we're at an hour and 15 minutes. So we're going to take a little small break here. We're going to get back. We're going to talk about what's going on in the news, kind of bring you up to speed, kind of give you some information that you use around the water cooler, when you go into work tomorrow, when you're battling the sheeple out there and stuff. So this show, I want to stress to you, this show is all about information, getting the right information to you. It's very important that the information that we provide to you is the correct information. That's why if you go out to www.themidnightpatriot after the show, episode 8, we will list the sources of all of our information, links to the pages, all that, so you can come to your own conclusion. It's not hard to do. So that's why we do it, because it's very important. It's one thing for me to sit up here and say, nuclear warhead off in North, but we want to show you where we got that information and allow you to come to your own conclusion. When we talk about Agenda 21 and sustainable living and the Common Core, all of those programs that have been thrown onto us, all over the world, but mainly here in the United States and stuff. I want you to see what we're seeing. And that's why it's important that you go out to our website at www.themidnightpatriot.com and see for yourself. Read the materials out there, and then you come up with your own conclusion. We talked about the 72,000 page bill, Obamacare ACA bill and stuff. Well, go out there and don't read the full 72,000. It's crazy to do it. I mean, I read most of it highlighted sections and stuff like that. I'm not asking you to do that, but it's there. The Senate bill that was just passed with $2 million, actually $3 billion in pork funding that we're finding out, we have that Senate bill. Go out there and read it. It's all about education. So when you're sitting around the water cooler, the only way that you're going to affect change, especially in sheeple, and there's two types of ways that we can communicate our position. And we're going to talk about that when we get back from our break. So you're listening to the Jeff Norton, the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. We're going to take a small break. When we get back, like I said, we're going to talk about the two ways that you can affect change at the water cooler. And then we're going to get into the news, and, hopefully we'll take some calls. If you would like to call into the show, you can give us a call at 347-205-9899 or 262-997-0607. That's a dedicated phone line. That's 262-997-0607. Or you can also Skype us at themidnightpatriot.com.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
We were told nothing could be done to enjoy these final moments together.
But in that moment, when all seemed lost, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital gave us hope.
Because at this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care. We're changing the way the world treats childhood cancer by sharing our discoveries with doctors and scientists everywhere.
And we'll never have to pay St. Jude for anything, ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends. I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and join St. Jude in finding cures and saving children. Visit stjude.org.
America, welcome home the brave. The brave men and women who serve their country are coming home. Home to their cities and towns. Home to their mountains and valleys. Home to their families and friends. Home to America. Some of these warriors are coming home with wounds you can see, and some with wounds you can't see, like post-traumatic stress disorder. Wounded Warrior Project was created to provide the support these wounded veterans need to ensure their return to America is well-adjusted and successful. But we need your help to ensure that our mission is a success. Help us honor and empower these wounded warriors. Contact us at findwwp.org. America, welcome home the brave.
You're listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast with your host, Jeff Norton. It's here every night, Monday through Friday from 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, CDT, to 11, guaranteed every night, all the way up to 3. We were actually talking about of extending into the third hour, and it looks like because of the quality of the show that we're putting together, the guests that are calling in and stuff, that we are going to hit the third hour mark pretty easily and everything. So, like I said, if you missed the show earlier, the first hour and stuff, we actually had Mark from Prepper Recon on. You can join him on the web at his website and also on Facebook, Google prepperrecon.com. And also the books that he mentioned and stuff, of course, you'll be able to link to them off of the Midnight Patriot website. That's www.themidnightpatriot.com. If you'd like to give us a call, feel free to, call us at 347-205-9899. That's 347-205-9899. Or you can Skype us at The Midnight Patriot. That's our Skype name. And we also have another number, which is a direct line. Instead of going through the 347, you can actually call us at 262-997-0607. Love to hear from you. If you have any questions, you guys want to talk and stuff about some of the topics and stuff, feel free to give us a call. We're here. We're here. One of the things I want to, point out to everybody that's listening out there, this show was put together with the intent to give the Patriot movement, people like Mark and the preppers out there and all of us a voice in this community. Mainstream media, you don't have to go far to realize, you don't have to be in this community to realize that we are being ignored by mainstream media. We are completely, our voices are not being heard. And when we do things that are patriotic, things that will make you as any good American, make them feel good about being an American. Mainstream media is immediately out there ready to diminish that and stuff. So when we created this show, we wanted to give you a voice out there that's not controlled by corporate media. We don't, I can tell you right now, when we get sponsors, and we will have sponsors, we'll talk about that a little bit later. When we get our sponsors and we grow the show, I can tell you right now that if I don't care who my sponsor is, if I don't agree with their message and everything, they're not going to break me. They're not going to control me. They're not going to tell me what I can say on the air or off the air. You know what? It's one of these things. It goes both ways. We can vote with our dollars. They can, support us and stuff. They can take their money somewhere else because I really don't want it. I will never be part of that corporate media system here at the Midnight Patriot. You have my word. You have my promise. The other thing too, part of that too, is you got to understand that as your budgets grow, as your organization grows, you sometimes have to compromise. And that's an unfortunate thing because now you got payroll you have to make, you have to do. So people that wouldn't do things before might want to do things later, make decisions. If you're looking at that big advertisement check from that big sponsor or whatever and everything, you're going to want, and you got to make your payroll because you got 14 writers or whatever. We designed this show and to be anti-corporate. And when I say I'm not anti-capitalist, anti-corporate. There's a difference there. And so when we designed this show, it's a 1 to 2 person show. It's myself and whoever decides that wants to be a producer and help me out grow the show. And we will never become bigger than that. And I say that wholeheartedly because personal experience in business world and stuff, when you start growing, your core values start changing. And I've seen it. I've done it myself in business. And I promise you with this show and stuff, this is for you. We're doing this for our fellow patriots to give you a voice, and we will never, ever compromise our values. And if we do, turn us off, shut us down, shut us down. because that is one thing that will go against, my values. So enough being said of that. Now let's get back to the topic again. Before we took our break, we were talking about tomorrow. You're going to be sitting at the water cooler. You're going to be talking to your friends. You're going to be talking about the sports. I mean, obviously, Thursday night, you got baseball and stuff, but, and there's a lot of lies being perpetrated by the media about our movement. They portray us as kooks. They portray us as violent individuals. They portray us as all we want to do is shut the Capitol down. We're racist and everything, because that's how they can attack us, because their other arguments have no merit. And when I say their other arguments have no merit, how do you explain the fact that you're already in debt to $17 trillion now because they raised the debt ceiling, and the fact that you're at $123,000 per working American? How can they make the argument that that's okay? They can't. They can't make the argument. So what do? It's a standard ploy. And it's not Democrat, it's not Republican, it's that whole mindset of, if I can't beat you with the facts, I'll lie about you. And that's why it's very important that we deal with the facts here at the Midnight Patriot and on my show. That's why we give you our sources, so you can source it yourself. So when you're sitting at the cooler and you hear, well, all the Tea Party wanted to do was shut down the government because President Barack Obama is black. I will tell you this straight out. These are highly educated individuals. These are people who have worked in multicultural environments. These are people that have went to liberal schools, colleges, Ted Cruz, all of those. I can tell you, they're not racist. I can tell you they're not racist. They're arguing on principle. And that's what gets away from mainstream media. You didn't hear about it. The principle is this. Our country is so in debt that it has to borrow money from another country in order to pay its obligations. That's fact. Plain and simple. Point number 2. The Obamacare law that was enacted by Congress was enacted by Congress with no Republican vote. Number 1. It was still enacted by Congress. We'll give you that much. The reality of it is that after it was enacted by Congress, the President of the United States took it upon himself to alter the law, which is unconstitutional. The President doesn't have the authority to change the law. That can only come from Congress. And what I'm talking about is the fact of the employer mandate. He tweeted that out. He said 1 year, right? And then, of course, the backtrack, got Congress to buy into it. The second thing is that he made the executive decision of the fact that Congress and its members don't have to participate in the healthcare law. He doesn't have the authority to do that. That's fact. You don't have to go very far to realize the President of the United States doesn't have the authority to make those changes to the law. The law was enacted. So when you have the two arguments, and people are talking about this and they're talking about that, it was a racial thing. We don't know what's in a person's heart. Some will say I'm racist. If you only knew. If you only truly knew. I would shoot that down in about 3 seconds if you call me a racist. But the reality of it is some people would call me a racist. And that's what the media is out there saying. Some would say that we're violent. I, this weekend, watched the peaceful protest, and it was a peaceful protest. There were veterans They were patriots and they were American citizens. We had a gentleman on yesterday who was there. Jack. I mean, he was there. He watched the video. Go listen to our show. That was a peaceful. If God Save America or God Bless America, singing at the Lincoln Monument is an act of violence. Heaven help us as a country, people. But no, you would never get that from mainstream media. Mainstream media was portraying the veterans as being violent. They were over and over again, and this is an example. I just found this clip today. I want to kind of share it with you, all of our listeners out there. You really got to watch this. This is how they're portraying us and how they're lying to the American people, and how the media is manipulating the argument and everything. So this is a clip that actually came off of InfoWars, but you have to listen to it.
Last night on MSNBC, Rachel Maddow covered the Veterans March that took place over the weekend. And in stereotypical mainstream fashion, she deliberately distorted and falsified the facts surrounding the protest. First, she made it look like the Veterans March was organized by the Tea Party, led by Ted Cruz and Sarah Palin. And she said it was a small demonstration and once again pulled out the race card, insinuating that the Veterans Rally was somehow racially motivated.
Vaguely threatening but incoherent is a patented thing with these folks. It has never, ever held them back. Like, say, this guy who brought the Confederate flag to the rally to wave it in front of the White House. Yes, an African-American family lives in that house now. But hey, I think the idea here was more about waving a Confederate flag in front of a house where a black family lives than it was about anything specific related to the Marines.
And of course, they kept showing footage of this one guy who was out there with his Confederate flag, but failed to show the incredible amount of veterans who showed up, including, yes, black veterans. And that's because most everyone is extremely outraged right now about the Obama administration putting up barricades and denying veterans access to our nation's memorials.
Y'all need to perform the Constitution you took the oath to do. These veterans served our country. They put their life on the line for you, for our country. You're going to block their access to the memorial? Surely you got more dignity and respect than that. You're going to spit on their graves as well when they die?
But Rachel Maddow's lying to her audience got worse. She claimed that the veterans, for example, were throwing the barricades at the White House, which did not happen.
They then picked up the barricades that were around the closed World War II memorial and dragged the barricades over to the White House and hurled the barricades at the White House.
But the big lie was when she told her audience that the police were not getting paid.
Then the protesters went home, so the police, who through no fault of their own are working without being paid, the police had to pick up those barriers, drag them back to where they came from, and keep working their shifts without being paid because of the shutdown that these folks made happen.
Wait a minute. Let's stop right there. Notice they keep showing a video loop of a veteran who is pushing one of the riot police backwards. What MSNBC failed to show their audience was the fact that it was the riot police who lashed out at veterans first. You can clearly see this cop pushing the veteran before the veteran pushes back. MSNBC deliberately edited that part out of the video. And as far as the cops not being paid during the shutdown, it's on record that all patrol and riot police are seen as essential. They're all on duty and they're all getting paid.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A little backup.
So the police that are getting yelled at there are working without pay while the shutdown goes on. And working without pay includes now getting screamed at for being at work.
Is there any threat? Is there any law being broken?
And there were a lot of World War II veterans that showed up for the march over the weekend, and no World War II veteran should be denied access to the Iwo Jima Memorial or the World War II Memorial or to any other memorial for that matter. And the fact that they were denied access should be a wake-up call to us all. The enemy is no longer foreign, it is domestic. So remember, you can't trust MSNBC, you can't trust Rachel Maddow, and don't fall for the race card. Those memorials belong to us, each and every one of us. And as long as they're out there putting up barricades, it's up to all of us to get out there, support our veterans, tear those barricades down, and send a clear message to Obama that we're not about to back down. I'm Darren McBreen for Infowars.com.
There you go. There you go. Darren McBreen, Infowars. You know, that's exactly what we're facing. You know, you don't have to go far. You know, when you're sitting at the coolers, you hear the talk, oh, it's about this, it's about that. So, as promised, I'm going to tell you how I think you should approach. Number one, you need to identify the person you're talking to. There are people, sheeple. Call them sheeple. Not trying to be derogatory, but sheeple is exactly what they are. They follow the herd to slaughter. So you got to identify that. You got to identify that first. Now, with people, they're the ones that, you know, as we like to say, that have drank the Kool-Aid, and you're never going to change them. Obama is the savior. The government is the savior, because a lot of these people, it doesn't matter who's in office. It's still that the government is the savior. You know, you have generations, as Mark said earlier in our conversation, especially with the EBT, you have generations of individuals, family generations, who, and it's going back to almost 3 generations now, who feel that the sole purpose of the government and society is to provide for them. That's that mentality. Typically, you're not going to run into those people at work because they don't work. And if they do, you know, I feel sorry that you have to work with individuals who feel that they're owed something by the government. I'm sure it's a hostile situation, especially for us patriots out there. You must be pulling your hair out and stuff. So you have the ones that are drinking the Kool-Aid. You have the other ones, though. And this is the part that I deal with on a daily basis. They know something is wrong. They know things aren't right. But for whatever reason, they choose to put on their blinders. In their hearts, they know that it's not right that now every working American is now in debt to the world banks and to those people that have lent us money to the tune of $123,000. It started at $56,000, and now it's at $123,000. So they know that's not right. You know, they know that, you know, like their home finances, you cannot continually borrow for a rainy day, against a rainy day. You know, you can't take the money, you can't go out and borrow the money and put that into a fund thinking that it's going to have the same purchasing power as it did when you borrowed the money. They know that. They know that they can't continually take out credit cards and use part of that money and then use part of that money to pay off the interest, not the principal, but the interest on the other credit cards and think that that's going to be okay. They know that you can't sit and not go to work and still expect to be paid. They know that. So you got to ask yourself, why do they support that behavior? Because they also know that in order to fix the problem, there's going to be pain. And so when you talk to these people at the water cooler, don't get angry with them. Don't get frustrated with them. What you need to do is empathize with them, because they, like you, know that there's going to be pain. And unfortunately, there are some people who recognize this is going to be painful. There are probably going to be lives destroyed because of this. There are people like that. There's other people who want to be the healers, so have empathy for them. So when you're sitting at the cooler, don't get frustrated with them, because you got to understand their mindset. Their mindset is, unless they're completely narcissistic, and there are some of those people just kind of walk on. But for the majority of the people out there, they know that making the right choice is going to be the hard choice. They know that. So when you're talking to them, don't come at them from a part that they don't know what's going on. They clearly know what's going on. They just don't want to address it because it hurts to address those things, because they know that those choices are going to have to be made. So how do you talk to those people? How do you talk to a person who knows the time, what time it is, but refuses to acknowledge it? So how do you talk to them? It's pretty simple. First, you understand, and you make it clear that you understand where their position is, and you agree with them at a certain level. And that level is, I agree that this is going to be painful. And like a good, have you ever had surgery? There's nothing good about surgery. Your mother or your spouse comes to you right before you're going into surgery, and they hold your hand and they tell you it's going to be okay, knowing darn well that when you come out of surgery, you're going to be in the most excruciating pain that you've ever been in. Now, is that a lie? Are they lying to you? No. Because what they're telling you is that, yeah, we acknowledge it's going to be painful. We acknowledge that it's not going to be easy. But what gives you comfort in that time when they hold your hand and they tell you that everything is going to be okay is not the fact that they're going to, the pain's magically going to go away. What they're telling you is that when you come out of your surgery and you're in that pain, I will be there. I will be there for you. I will work, I will carry you through this. And anybody that's had a surgery, that had a loving, caring family member around them knows exactly what I'm talking about. I know firsthand, And so does it take the pain away? No, it doesn't take the pain away. You're still going to be in pain. But knowing that that someone is going to walk with you through that pain is comforting. It makes you, puts you at ease. And you go into the surgery and you come out and you're in pain, and that person's there for you. Now that's what I'm talking about. When you are sitting there at the water cooler and you are talking to these people that, like I said, the narcissist ones, push them aside and move on. Dust the dirt off the soles, as the Bible would say, and keep walking. But the ones that in your heart that they get it, but they don't know how to address their pain. And I'm not saying HR. I hear HR going, no. What I'm telling you is you need to take the approach of when you wake up. I'm going to give you some information. When you wake up and you come out of your trance that you're in, this cult of personality deception that you've been lulled into. And we'll talk about that a little bit later in the conversation. But when you come out of that trance, I'm going to be here, and if you need my help, I'm standing right here. I'll talk to you and stuff. And you know what? You walk away. Just say, hey, look, I'm just going to let you know I'm here. I'm going to be here. And I can pretty much guarantee you that people that when you do that and you just walk away from them. You're not getting into the arguments. You're not getting your blood pressure up. You're not, doing that. It's when you argue and stuff, then, that's when they start, oh, you're just a racist. You're just that. And then, it escalates even more. So just, hey, believe what you want to believe. But when you find out that the S hits, when it hits the fan, or when you're ready to come to a plan, I have a plan. And, and your plan is, hey, you listen to the Midnight Patriot, you listen to people like Mark, expert in prepping at Prepper Recon. You listen to Ellen Brown, expert in financial. You listen to Paul Gallagher, expert in financial. You listen to Dave Ramsey, as we play, expert in financial. You listen to Harvard Law, talking about your rights, politicians, stuff like that, expert in what's going on. You listen to me, tell you, kind of give you a heads up of what's coming down the pipe. The short time that we've been doing this, I've already been ahead of the news curve about 6 times. You heard it here first before it was actually on the news. So you get that information. And so when you get these people and they're ready to listen to you, let them know I'll be here. Because in the day and age, patriots, there's a misconception about patriots. A lot of people think that we as patriots are out for ourselves. And do you think that the 3%ers are truly out for themselves? Do you really think that they make an oath and a commitment to defend this country against enemies, domestic and also foreign, when they have every opportunity to bug out themselves and just let people just, be the animals that they're going to be? No. In the Patriot community, this is one of the things I've discovered. When there's a call to arms or, hey, I need your help, look at America. When America has a common cause, we all come together, regardless of your race, regardless of your belief, regardless of everything. We all come together and we deal with that cause. So, in the Patriot community, I mean, we're here. We're not as closed-minded as everybody thinks. If you come to me and say, hey, look, I need some help, what would you suggest? I can already tell you, I do it on Facebook every day. I talk to different patriots throughout the day. Hey, for this tonight's show, what do you think we ought to talk about? And I get a flurry of information and stuff. So, when you're talking to these people at the water cooler, just let them know, when it hits the fan and when things start turning and stuff, and you have any questions, just call me. I'll be here. Unless I got fired or laid off because of Obamacare or some other government policy. I'll be here. And you're going to find that you're not going to get in an argument, no name calling. You're not going to be at HR because of some belief that you spouted off or, that's against, even though your belief is correct. It's against the company policy. Someone complained, so that's all you got to do. So that's the first step. The second step is this. Now that you have put yourself out there as an individual who is willing to listen and engage, it is your responsibility to represent the Patriot movement correctly. And what I mean by that, if you are a person who uses derogatory comments, things of that nature, who does look at individuals based upon the color of their skin or whatever, or their nationality, and you put that out there, all you're doing is feeding in that, see, he's racist. And because he's racist and because they're racist, the whole Patriot movement's racist. So it's very important. You need to get your head checked And you got to understand, and I understand that there are people in our organization, like a lot of organizations, not just us, who are racist. I've gone to Southern Baptist Bible churches, and I've met the best people in the world, and I've met the most racist people in the world. It doesn't matter. Racism is amongst all cultures of people. It's that tribal instinct. We stick together. So if you're part of that organization, then more power to you. Don't have these conversations with people, because all you're going to do is misrepresent us, and it's going to give them the ammunition, the Rachel Maddows of the world, the ammunition to use against us. I get offended. I don't know about you. I get offended when I'm called a racist. I get offended when a vet is called a racist. I get offended when a peaceful protest is painted as a violent protest. And, let's talk about that. I've watched many Tea Party protests. They have the signs, they have the banners, they do the chants. I've yet to see a Tea Party protest or any conservative protest end up with streets or windows being smashed, cop cars being overturned, people being hurt, people being gang raped in parks, people using drugs, people, let's just go down the list. 99%ers. I've yet to see that in our patriot movement. So when you're going to sit out there and call us names, maybe you need to check yourselves. Maybe you do. Because what I saw this weekend was patriots being respectful, patriots doing their constitutional rights. I promise you, it didn't happen. I promise you that if there was an officer, no matter how upset we were at those officers for doing the orders, following their orders by their commander-in-chief, King Obama, if there was an officer that was hurt or that was in need, I promised you that a patriot would have been the first one to come to their aid. Because that's who we are. That's our fabric. There is nothing wrong with protest. The mainstream media is going to tell you something differently, unless it's their 99%er. Their 99% group out there represents their agenda. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing more frustrating than us being painted as anything other than true Americans who want to fight. We are fighting for the same rights. Think about it. We're fighting for the same rights let me frame this. We are fighting for the same rights for ourselves and everybody else. We're not asking for special inclusion or exclusion. We're asking for if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. If you're going to pass a law against the majority, you need to make it effective for the minority and also the power elite out there. You need to stop coddling your base, and you need to start thinking about the mass. You need to stop worrying about corporations because of their donations in your upcoming election, and you need to think about the people that actually truly elect you. So with that, she's actually counting down in my ears. There you go. Corporate controlled media. No, it's actually, let you guys know it's Blog Talk Radio. That's where we get our phone feeds. So she's going to be dropping off here in a minute. Let me see if I can. That's where I need my producer. So, but so like I said, if you're sitting at the water cooler, have a little empathy. Understand where they're coming from. They're in the same boat. They just don't know how to address their feelings, And then number two, be that person that represents us in the Patriot movement. You know, give them the information that they can use to help their family. That might be, hey, look, you know, the bank said this, Chase, go to this website. Don't, you know, I'm not going to get into it, but go to Chase, see what Chase, and if you fall in that group, you know, you might want to take your money out. You know, oh, by the way, you know, this insurance group, you might want to go here. You know, be that person. Kind of help and guide them. One or two things are going to happen. They're going to come around for you, or they're not. And you know what? The ones that don't, just move on. Just move on. But, you know, if you can pull one or two people at your office, look at your office. If you can pull one or two people in your office and make them understand the Patriot mentality, we're going to be better for it as a movement or as a group. So you're listening to Jeff Norton of the Midnight Patriot radio show. That we're going to get into hour number 3. There you go. So our 347-205-9899 number is now dead because we got signed off of the Blog Talk Radio Network. And you can actually join us. If you want to call into the show, we ask that you use the 262-997-0607. That's 262-997-0607 number to call in the show. You can always still reach us actually at Skype. Our Skype name is the Midnight Patriot Radio. Now, when we get back from that, we're gonna delve into some of the news. Believe it or not, you know, government's back open, but there is still some news out there for you. You know, some things that you need to be aware of when you're joining the conversations. We have actually some more videos for you, or audios. We can't do video yet, but we have some audio. We have some kind of jokes, you know, things that some noteworthy individuals are out there saying about what's going on there at Capitol Hill. But you're listening to Jeff Norton, the Midnight Patriot radio show. We're going to take a little break, and when we get back, we'll talk about all of those things. You have a great day.
Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
America, welcome home the brave. The brave men and women who serve their country are coming home. Home to their cities and towns. Home to their mountains and valleys. Home to their families and friends. Home to America. Some of these warriors are coming home with wounds you can see, and some with wounds you can't see, like post-traumatic stress disorder. Wounded Warrior Project was created to provide the support these wounded veterans need to ensure their return to America is well-adjusted and successful. But we need your help to ensure that our mission is a success. Help us honor and empower these wounded warriors. Contact us at findwwp.org. America, welcome home the brave.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
At this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care.
And we'll never have to pay St. Jude for anything, ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends. I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and visit stjude.org today.
listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show here on Spreaker. I'd like to welcome all of our new listeners on the third hour. If you'd like to join us on the web, you can actually always go to www.themidnightpatriot.com. That's www.themidnightpatriot.com. And now with Blog Talk Radio actually dropping off of the cast and stuff, you can call us. Our direct number to the studio is 262-997-0607. That's 262-997-0607. And you can also Skype us on the Midnight Patriot is our Skype name. So, we talk about the Patriot movement, and we talk about how we're all in this together. And here's a great example. As I was doing my little soap pop there, my soapbox, and so if I got to put it up here, I'll put my soapbox up and stuff. I actually got a pretty funny little text here from a listener. And, I want to share this, and it's basically entitled "The 9 Reasons Why Liberals Absolutely Hate Obamacare." I don't want to say liberals. I just say certain individuals, because there are some liberals who do not, fiscal responsible liberals who do not like Obamacare. So I don't want to lump everybody together and stuff. So here we'll just kind of do the we'll start here at number 9 and work our way back up. It says Obamacare, the number 9 reason, Obamacare is extremely complicated. In fact, according to CNSnews.com, the regulations for Obamacare are now over 11 million words long. So that's number 9. They don't like 11 million words. Went from 7,200 or thereabouts to now 11 million is the regulations. So, they realize that it's a very complicated piece of legislation. Crazy. Number 8, many people that believe that they have successfully enrolled in Obamacare are not actually enrolled at all. There are major problems with the transmission of enrollment. This is something that we heard about earlier today. When you enroll in Obamacare, you go out to the Obamacare website, you enroll, and you pick your insurance company. That information then is generated in a report and given to the insurance companies. Well, what we're finding out, or one of the complaints that the insurance companies have, is that they'll get a report that says that Jeff Norton is now enrolled. It ain't going to happen. But Jeff Norton is enrolled in Obamacare with Aetna. And then 2 lines down the list, Health South or Blue Cross Blue Shield will get Jeff Norton's enrolled in Blue Cross Blue Shield. So the insurance companies don't know who's actually enrolled and signed up for them. That's a very it's a huge issue. But that's definitely an issue. Many liberals are absolutely mortified by the fact that it costs more than $93 million to build healthcare.gov. They're upset. That's $93 million that they could have gave someone else. So we got a caller in line, but let me finish this and I'll get you on the air, caller. Just hold on with us. So they're upset about that. Lots of liberals are actually losing their good paying jobs. It's the truth. A lot of people are losing their jobs because of Obamacare. I know firsthand. I know firsthand. I mean, I've seen it. Obama promised us that, that's going to be like the current health care. So we heard the sound bits. It's nothing like the current health. Can't keep your doctors if they're no longer eligible to participate in the plan. In some areas of the country, people are only able to purchase health insurance from a single company. So what happened to the marketplace there? They're saying that. This shouldn't be, we're going to retype this. This is everything, the reason why I hate Obamacare. I'm not a liberal. I'm a libertarian, but this is why I don't like it either. Number 2, or that was actually number 2. Number 1, the launch of Obamacare has been such a colossal mistake. No one wants to be associated with it. I agree. It's amazing. This is probably been one of the if you were a .com company and you released a product as faulty and as backwards, built on 10-year-old technology, and the way that you did it, I wouldn't want my name anywhere near it. So I have to agree with that. So I wanted to share that with the audience and stuff. That was just sent during the break. So we got a caller on line 1. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Is that me?
It is you. And who am I speaking with?
How you doing this evening? It's the Sage of St. Louis, Wade Olson.
Hey, Wade. How are you doing, buddy?
Not bad, not bad. I wish I had more time to give you, but I literally have about 2 minutes. I'm right before a pickup. But I wanted to call in and say I'm sure you saw the same idiocy where the MoveOn.org had started a petition to go after, who was it? Was it Cruz and Boehner and anybody else in their sites for supposedly seditious acts?
Well, yeah, it's that tit for tat. You had I believe there were some senators that were actually filing because Obama, they were doing impeachment orders against Obama as well. So,
But I was just thinking, just real quick, if they want to see numbers in action, I mean, what's her name acted like she was shocked that there were 30,000 names. Well, there's easily that many liberals probably in New York alone. Why don't we start a nationwide petition to show how many people would want to put acts of sedition against Obama and his administration?
Because
I think we could come up with at least a 10-point bullet count.
Yeah,
what do you think?
But wait a minute, because he shut the website down that you do the petition at. It's amazing. I don't know if you heard about that, but the website where
No, I didn't. When somebody actually just started already?
Yeah, at the WhiteHouse.gov website. No, yesterday at the WhiteHouse.gov website, they had where you can sign that you can put the petition out there, and then they get people to do it. Well, the White House actually shut it down. So and of course then they also increased the limits on how many before. I think it was 20,000. Then they would act on it, and so the reality of it is this. They're MoveOn.org. Are you kidding? Whatever. What aren't they too busy trying to become navigators?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
probably. It's beyond me. It really is. Acts of sedition. I thought, there's never been a president that has truly been as seditious as the guy right now in the White House.
Yeah.
How in God's name do you go after a few members of a party when your own president is blatantly trying to tear the country down?
Well, yeah, I mean, you got them. You just talk about Obama. I don't know how they're going to make the argument effectively in a court of law either, because what's their cause? The fact that they were trying to hold the country fiscally responsible, the fact that they did exactly what they said they were going to do, and the reason why it's amazing how a certain...
But they're terrorists, and they're trying to tear the government down, and they're trying to rebuild the Confederacy. It's just, the left is losing their mind, and it's so humorous to watch.
Well, it is. And like I said earlier, as I was, I don't know if you heard my rant and stuff, that's the only thing that they've got. The only thing that they've got, because when you can't get them with facts, what you do is you get them with fiction. And the problem is...
But unfortunately, that works with the low information voters.
It does.
That's the problem, Jeff.
It does.
Idiots buy into it because they won't do the research.
Oh, I know. And let's be fair. I mean, we have that segment in our group, in our Patriot group as well. And
True.
And so you have it's just kind of ironic though that MoveOn.org is trying to do this, where they're a PAC or a fundraising group for basically Obama, call it what it is, but you had you actually had senators who were talking about filing impeachment orders against the president of the United States, and the reason why it was dropped, obviously, because the government got funded last night, so they didn't have an argument in their thing. But we talk about impeachment, and that was a danger. When we impeached Clinton for what he did and didn't follow through with it, impeachment now is going to be just the standard term of, hey, that's how we're going to censor you. I mean, the reality of it is...
How would you carry that through then? It's been so long. I don't remember why it was we didn't carry through.
Well, because you couldn't get the vote in the Senate. What happens is the House, the way that works is the House actually does the order of impeachment. And then the Senate then has to ratify it, and then the Senate will and they impeach you, and they did. But that's a censorship. But then there's a whole court process that has to go through where it's litigated, and under President Bill Clinton, when he was impeached, it never got to the litigation phase because no one was going to do it. They basically felt that they proved their point and everything. But it's amazing that they're going to talk about sedition, where we clearly have the president's own words. Let's talk about impeachment here. We clearly have the president's own words where he lied to the American people. And it just came out today. Right. It just came out today that they intentionally withheld and lied about the status of Obamacare during the election because they didn't want Romney to know about it. They were telling the American people all along, because I said this last week, how can you, have this development process and not know where you're at? Either it works or it doesn't. Let's see the beta testing. Let's see the reports. And they didn't have that. Well, come to find out, they did have it. They had it all along. They just didn't want to report it because they knew it would be, detrimental to the president's reelection. And that came out today too. So, we're going to talk about sedition. I mean, you got a president who constantly lies to the American, and his actions are completely different than what he portrays.
He's so charismatic and so successful in his lying that there's a certain segment of the American population now that just honestly expects their presidents to lie to them.
Well, yeah, they're politicians. All politicians. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah, but, this is just blatant. I mean, last night in last night's show, I don't know if you heard the end of it, where I played the clip of where President Obama just flat out said that he is for a one-payer system. He clearly said that, and Barney Franks was like, yeah, we want to do a one-payer system.
Yes, I'm the Hilton Ballpark. Sorry, Jeff. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just got my ride.
You got your ride. So, hey, you have a good night. Hey, Wade, thanks for calling in. And,
Back at you, Phil. Talk to you soon.
All right, be safe, my friend. Be safe.
You too. Bye-bye now.
So, with that, if you want to join in the conversation, give us a call at 262-997-0607. So, talking about that, talk about, sedition. We throw these words out, and it's getting to the point now where they're thrown out so much, it's, no one really, once again, but, the way I would look at it is moveon.org, isn't that a racist? The fact that they're, if I'm going to put on my corporate media hat, got my corporate media hat on here, and I'm going to now twist it, and I'm going to now say that moveon.org, by filing a complaint, an act of treason or sedition against the, Senator Ted Cruz, that's a racist thing. See how that works? These are just words that they throw out there with no actual substance. You got to remember, the House of Congress, not the Senate. The House of Congress was doing exactly what it is supposed to do under the laws of our Constitution of the United States. The House of Congress's job is to fund the government. The Senate is to do the law, and the House is to fund the law. And the House of Congress, you have members within the House of Congress who rightfully so, Cruz is senator, but you had members in the House of Congress who rightfully so said, we're not going to fund this this issue. And really, if I came to you and said, look, I'm going to charge you $93 million for a product that doesn't work, wouldn't you rightfully so, as a business person, say, I ain't going to give you the money? If I'm going to come to you and say, look, we need to put a debt burden on every American person for a tune of $123,000, wouldn't you rightfully so in the House, if you had that kind of control, say, I ain't going to do that? The American people are already burdened enough because of the economy, the lack of jobs and all of that. I'm not going to do that. It's amazing how they will sit there and they will, good for the goose, definitely not good for the gander. That's what we're dealing with. And what was going on in the House, because it wasn't reported in mainstream media, people think it was about race. The people think that it was all about making Obama look bad. We think it's all about, and we got to own some of that, because we came out with our arguments not being race, but some of our arguments being it just they didn't have their message, and for that I do blame the GOP. The message should have been, Mr. President, from day one, and every party member should have ran this message. Mr. President, if you're going to pass a bill or a law, if you're going to sign a law from our Congress and you're going to sign it, then enact the law that was written. If you want to change the law, then put it back into the Congress and let them change the law. But you can't change the law by issuing a tweet over the weekend and then bring your party into line. That's not how it works. That's not constitutionally correct, Mr. President. You know that. You're a constitutional lawyer. But what your administration, like I said earlier, you are a lawless administration. Benghazi, with NSA, IRS. NSA, IRS, actually, they found out that they're working in cahoots with each other now. Mr. President, the drone strikes against Americans, Mr. President, without a trial, the indefinite detention of Americans. Now, you can sit there all you want to and say, well, the Congress made it a law. But you know what? You signed it. You enacted it. The way our government is governed is that Congress does the law. You can choose to enact it or not. You chose to enact it. So the buck does stop with you because you were the final stopgap and you allowed those things to go into law. Fast and furious, Mr. President. Let's talk about that, lawlessness. The fact that you took critical information to a case. And you got to remember, Border Patrol agents have been killed by the guns that you allowed or your administration allowed to fall into the hands of these drug cartels. And in the middle of the investigation, you classified the documents and made them privileged so they could not be used in the court of law. Now, I got to ask myself, was there Taliban terrorists, Mr. President? Was there an imminent threat to the United States, Mr. President? No. I would venture to say no. I don't know. You classified them. You sent redacted documents. You did what I would expect an amateur to do. Now, in the political world, you would think that was a professional move, Mr. President. But instead of giving the documents that the Justice Department, because it was that organization, but the senators requested, what you did in turn is that you flooded them with erroneous documents. They keep them occupied until you could get your secretive NSA status on them and stuff. Where I come from, Mr. President, when I am asked by law enforcement a question and I refuse, not taking my fifth, actually taking my fifth, I'm allowed to do that, but actually you made sure that I'm not allowed to do that in certain cases by your detention of American citizens without trial and without right to representation with your National Security Act. But when I am asked a question from a police officer and I lie to that police officer or I give them erroneous documents, ask me my name, I give them another name. They ask me for my tax returns and I give them all the tax returns of everybody else in the county in which I live, but it's somewhere buried in there within the thousands of pages on different sections is my stuff. The court of law has a very specific term. People end up in federal prison. It's called obstruction, Mr. President. When you do what you have done under the guise of national security, when there is no real national security threat, in order to hide your crime or the crime of others, That's called obstruction. And I don't know why our politicians aren't doing more. That's why most patriots don't trust either party. That's why we don't, we kind of sit in the middle and we see how it shakes out. And, and we support those who tend to support us, but that's a representative government. It's amazing how you want to rewrite history and call us anything other than that. But we have elected officials that represent us and our beliefs. And for you to go and try to trump up charges against them, when in fact your house is not in order, we have the video of you saying it's not a tax. And then we have the video of you arguing, Lou arguing, it is a tax amongst the Supreme Court. We have the videos and the audio of you saying that you want a one-payer system. We have the audios that, it's going to be equal for everybody, unless you're in Congress. We have the audio where employers are going to be required to do this, but then, of course, you changed it. We have the documentation that clearly says, Mr. President, that you knew that this program was deficient, or members of your administration knew, and you withheld it purposely to gain political ground against your opponent. When we have documents that clearly state that there was an arms deal going on in Benghazi, when we have documents that clearly state, or that are redacted, but we have witnesses that clearly said that your Justice Department through the ATF ordered the transfer of illegal firearms that are illegal, to be transferred in any other case, you allowed those to be transferred. We have those, Mr. President. The American people, now the media doesn't report on it. We have those. Oh, let me add one more thing to that list, Mr. President. We have the PDF file that you tried to perpetrate to the American people as your birth certificate. When any computer, maybe you should have hired these computer experts to do Obamacare. This is a suggestion. When computer experts have taken that file that you provided on your website that was provided to the media by yourself and people that represented you in your office, and when we found out that those documents were forgeries and would not hold up in the court of law once investigated under computer forensics, Mr. President, falsified a legal document. Just because the media doesn't report on it doesn't mean it didn't happen. Mr. President, we know. Oh, we have another thing, Mr. President. You guys can shove this in your little file cabinet as deep in that little dark place and hope that it goes away. But we find it. We find it, Mr. President. You can't hide. We know. And what I'm talking about is that we have your own family right here in Kenya.
Family members are not watching in New England or in Texas.
When you were senator.
But from here in the west of Kenya. Saeed Obama is the presidential hopeful's uncle. He's been watching his famous nephew's progress from the town of Kisumu. Another Obama still living in the village is Barack's grandmother, known as Mama Sarah. Senator Obama has been back only a few times. Even so, there's a strong attachment between the two of them.
Barack is a son of this village, is what she said. Barack is a son of this village, as it's translated. Nate Dahali, born in this village. That's the translation. Obama's grandmother, when she did this special, when at that time Senator Barack Obama was interviewed by the BBC. This is something you guys don't see in mainstream media. She said that Barack Obama was born in this village. He is a son. Now, the translation was he is a son of this village. But when you translate it further into her eidetic root, Nate, the eidetic root of Nate is natural, prenatal, and specifically to birth. So when she says, this is a language, you can try to manipulate it any way you want to, but their language is pretty clear on this. The iconic root Nate is easily to recognize, as is natural. Even now, he still asks for me. He said, Grandma, I'm going to stand for the presidency. He told me that. This is her words. According to one of the presently 5 lawsuits filed demanding Barack Obama give over his true birth certificate. This is the most damning part. In testimony, this is the things that they want to go away. According to the Obama's Kenyan paternal grandmother, his grandmother, as well as his half-brother and half-sister, Barack Hussein Obama was born in Kenya, not in Hawaii, as he has claimed. So you got to ask. You have family members. I'm in the court of law. I'm in the court of law. And I say I was born in Tennessee. Wasn't born in Tennessee, but I say I was born in Tennessee. My mother, my half-brother, I don't have a half-brother, I got a full brother, but my brother, my mother get on the stand and say, no, he wasn't born in Tennessee. He was born in some other state. Any jury that would hear that testimony would instantly conclude that I was lying to them. Now, the second part of that is, Mr. President, we have the documents that you have provided the American people as being truthful and factual. And upon further review, and this is that whole thing of people at the water cooler that we talked about earlier, they don't want to hear this, but it's fact. But we have the documents that they provided as a proof of his birth in Hawaii. The documents have been proven to be fake, to be forgeries, to be documented products. There are certain, without going into a lot of technical details in electronic, when you change a file, there's metadata. The government should know about metadata. That's what they're using to track us with. There's metadata. So when you change a file, that metadata is stored, and that history of the document is not altered. It's just that it's appended to. And it has been proven forensically by computer scientists that these documents have been altered. And if you presented them in the court of law, you would probably be charged with perjury. But it's amazing. So you got to ask yourself, well, if this is all true, why wasn't it caught? Why I don't know. I don't know. All I know is based upon the evidence and the totality of the evidence. I have to, say, I don't know the reason. there's many cases that are won in our legal judicial system in which why would they do that was never explained. They just did it. You know, in forgery cases, you know, especially you're talking about the ultimate forgery here. You're talking about the President of the United States. In forgery cases, you ask, you know, people, and typically what comes out is power and greed. It's pretty simple. You know, I can't think of a more powerful position in the world, on the world stage, than being the President of the United States. I can't think of the most beneficial financial position in the United States, in the world, than being, especially when you don't want to work for it, you're a community organizer. I can't imagine other than being the President of the United States. So maybe that's the motive. And maybe the motive of the government or the people that support him, maybe the reason why they're doing it is the same reason, power. Maybe that's your motive, power. Now, why is he not? Why hasn't it come to light? I don't know. Because mainstream media, mainstream media hasn't gone after him. And you could say mainstream media, you know, is a sale. No, we've proven time and time again, just with our example with Rachel Maddow. They will take fact and turn it into fiction to assert their needs upon the American people. You know? So you got to just ask yourself, step back and ask yourself that. So you're listening to the Midnight Patriot Radio Show podcast. If you'd like to join in, you can give us a call at area code 262-997-0607. That's 262-997-0607. Or, of course, you can Skype us at the Midnight Patriot Radio. I'm going to take a little break here. When we get back from break, we're going to wrap up the news. I got some stuff that's it's just mind-boggling. It really is. It's just completely and utterly mind-boggling. But, you know, who knows? I mean, that's the world that we live in, right? And everything. So I'm going to give you some more news, and we'll just do that. And, you know, we'll spend the last 30 minutes just kind of going over today's daily news.
In a moment, cancer changed our lives forever.
We were told nothing could be done to enjoy these final moments together.
But in that moment, when all seemed lost, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital gave us hope.
Because at this moment, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is saving lives with pioneering research and care. We're changing the way the world treats childhood cancer by sharing our discoveries with doctors and scientists everywhere.
And we'll never have to pay St. Jude for anything, ever.
At this moment, she wants to be in her own bed.
I want to be back at school with my friends. I want to be outside playing.
Please take a moment and join St. Jude in finding cures and saving children. Visit stjude.org.
America, welcome home the brave. The brave men and women who serve their country are coming home. Home to their cities and towns. Home to their mountains and valleys. Home to their families and friends. Home to America. Some of these warriors are coming home with wounds you can see, and some with wounds you can't see, like post-traumatic stress disorder. Wounded Warrior Project was created to provide the support these wounded veterans need to ensure their return to America is well-adjusted and successful. But we need your help to ensure that our mission is a success. Help us honor and empower these wounded warriors. Contact us at findwwp.org. America, welcome home the brave.
That is right. You are listening to the Midnight Patriot radio and show and podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton. We're going to wrap up the last 30 minutes here or so, 20 minutes here with some of the news. If you want to get in on the conversation, you can always give us a call at 262-997-0607. That's 262-997-0607. So some of the things that just kind of jumped out, there's a lot of things that jump out at me in the news. I don't know how much time we got to cover them, but we're kind of running out of time here. We're in our third hour. It's amazing. I thought, when I first started this, 1 hour was going to be it. That's all we could do. And now we're actually we're actually into our third hour of the show. So, it's pretty bad. It gets back to that water cooler conversation that we had earlier. It has been reported by the Daily Mail in UK. So this is dailymail.co.uk. First Lady Michelle Obama. This ought to irk you. So when you're sitting at the water cooler and you're talking to your friends and you ask them where they're going on vacation and they go, I can't afford a vacation. Or we're going to have to scale back our vacation. Maybe you ought to just ask them this. Said, well, if you had $10 million, what would you do on your vacation? Because apparently that's how much First Lady Michelle Obama has spent on all of her vacations. Now, that's public money. That's our money. So when you are sitting there and you're looking at criticizing Ted Cruz and you're talking about impeaching Senator Ted Cruz because he was trying to be a good steward with your money, you have to ask yourself, what did you get for that $10 million? I know what she got. I know what First Lady Michelle Obama got. And apparently, the Mail, co.uk, know what she got too. Here's a breakdown. Top shelf vodka, 5-star hotels. She spent over $10 million on her vacations. If you go to the Mail.uk, they actually break it down. It's not hard. Christmas break in Hawaii, December 2010. According to the Hawaiian Reporter, the bill for that trip was $1.5 million. That included $63,000 on an early flight bringing Miss Obama and the children to Hawaii ahead of the president. Can they ride on the same plane? $100,000 to return back. $38,000 for the winter White House beach property rental. $16,000 in rent for the homes of the Secret Service. $134,000 for 24 White House staff to stay at a Mona hotel. $251,000 in police overtime, and $10,000 in ambulance to be there at all times. Oh, ski trip to Vail. February 2001. Miss Obama and her daughter stayed at the Sebastian Hotel on Vail Mountain, where rooms are more than $2,400 for a multi-bedroom suite. That's per night. Air Force flown. They don't have a number on that one. Maybe it was sequestered. Summer holiday at Martha's Vineyard, 2011. $50,000 a week to stay at a family estate, friend's estate. So there you go. She has spent, UK Mail, not the Midnight Patriot saying this, UK Mail, Daily Mail, is saying that Mrs. Michelle Obama, First Lady, has spent over $10 million of taxpayer money on her vacations. And you're going to criticize Ted Cruz and the other members of Congress when they want to have fiscal responsibility? Got to ask yourself, what's important? So as the clock ticks down here, we're going to kind of touch some other news. One of the things that we heard a lot about, especially with on the campaign trail, was the bailout of General Motors. We heard that quite a bit. We talked about how successful that program was, and how without that program, America and American families would suffer. No one's arguing that. It was nice for our government to stand up for the American worker. But you got to ask yourself, do the ends justify the means? And what I mean about that is that was General Motors and the president forthcoming with the American people, especially those in those debates during the General Motors bailout. And what I'm saying here is there's an article written in the Washington Examiner. It's entitled, GM Got Bailed Out, Now Ships Jobs to China. I'll just kind of give you the abstract. You can go out there and join us on the web at www.themidnightpatriot.com and actually read the article in yourself. But here's the abstract. Saving General Motors from bankruptcy was amongst President Obama's most frequently cited achievement when he ran for re-election last year. Democrats everywhere touted the company's revival as proof of the 2009 bailout wisdom. We got more information on that a little bit later. That was then. Now, Obama has quietly released the auto manufacturer from a bailout requirement that it increase its production in the U.S. instead. So once again, part of the law, part of the bailout was, we're going to give you this money, Mr. General Motors, not Mr. General Motors. And in return, you're going to pay us back. And in return, you're going to agree to increase your hiring of American auto workers. Well, Mr. President Obama then changed the law. Lawlessness in our administration to release the auto manufacturers from a bailout requirement that it increase its production in the United States. Instead, General Motors is spending billions of dollars building up its production capability in China. This is happening despite the fact that the Treasury Department has to date recovered just $36 billion of its original $51 billion loans to General Motors. They didn't even pay their bill back. And then President Obama, with a single signing of a pen, releases them of their number one obligation. The easiest obligation of it all. Build more factories. Put more Americans back to work. They do that, but they do it in China. And then, on top of all of that, he allows them to release or to get out of this obligation that they have when they accepted the money, with them not even paying the money back. Now, there's a question in the $31 million that they paid back. We actually talked about this the other day on our show. We are finding that General Motors is in toxic debt again, like the housing market. They are doing subprime car loans to bolster their sales. That was reported here earlier this week at the Midnight Patriot. So the $31 million that they have, we're probably going to be stuck with as taxpayers as well. Because a majority of that was toxic debt funded by individuals who could not get a car loan. Lawless. By most analysis, predictions, American taxpayers will be out an approximately $10 billion when the remaining stock is sold off. So we're going to lose $10 billion, which is a long way from saying that it now appears that taxpayers pay $10 billion to make it easier for General Motors to accelerate its foreign outsourcing and send more manufacturing jobs to China. Wow, that would have came out during the election? Yeah. We had to do it. Remember that? Remember that? Telling the American people we had to do it. No. We did it so that they can outsource more jobs to China. There you go. Now, you know, that should irk you. I don't know. Here's some more for you. Because of the bill that was passed last night in the House and the Senate, all federal employees are obviously getting their back pay. That was passed the previous week. But they're also getting all of their pay raises retroactively. I'm not talking about retroactively for the 16 days. I'm talking retroactively from the sequester. So not only do they get their back pay, they maintain all of their vacation time. They get their raise. And the Congress now, in effect with their law that they passed last night, have completely removed the debt ceiling. That's right. This talk about, we're going to have another debt ceiling in January or February. If you actually read into the law that was written and that was voted on as of last night, you will find out that the debt ceiling wasn't raised. It was obliterated. That's right. It was obliterated. So you have to ask yourself, America. You have to ask yourself, patriots. Are we starting to see the decline and the mass exodus of all morality in our political leaders? Now, I know some of you will say, that there are some in Congress who still represent us. Now, I want to read you this article from the Daily Caller. That way I want to make sure that it's crystal clear on what I am saying. And of course, you can always go out to www.themidnightpatriot.com to get more information. So let me pull this up, and I do apologize. But I don't have, it's just me finishing up the show. So I want to leave you with this. So the Daily Caller is now reporting in the last 6 minutes. We'll talk about this. There's no actual debt ceiling right now. The fiscal deal passed by Congress on Wednesday evening to reopen the government and get around the $16.4 trillion limit on borrowing doesn't actually increase the debt limit. It just temporarily suspends enforcement of it. That means Americans have no idea how much debt their government is going to rack up between now and February 7th, when the limits are supposed to go back into place and will have to be raised. So right now, we basically gave our government free rein. We talked about this, Thelma and Louise, last night, the analogy. Some of the financial analysts are saying, you know you're going over the cliff. You can choose to just kind of putter over the cliff, or you can press the gas pedal of the U.S. economy, and you can accelerate at a speed, but you're still going to go over the cliff. Now, you're going to live a little bit longer because you're going to fly through the air a little bit further. Is that what we're seeing, Patriots? I asked that question. Is that what we're seeing? So so when you're sitting around the coolers, it all goes back to talking and bringing more patriots into the conversation. When you sit around the cooler, you got to ask, you got to tell them, say, well, they didn't raise the debt ceiling. They suspended it. And from now until the 7th, our federal government has the ability to borrow any amount of money that they want to. Not $16.4 trillion. It could be $30 trillion. It could be less. But with this government, it's never less. And with this government, you'll never truly know, because you're talking about a government that actually held the debt limit at standstill for 150 days. For 150 days, they didn't even accurately report what our true debt was. Don't take my word for it. Go out to www.themidnightpatriot.com and see for yourself. Everything that we talk about is out there. Everything we talk about is open for discussion. So as I take these last few minutes and we sit and we talk, I just want to tell you, going back to our conversation today with Mark, with Prepper Recon, you better have a plan, America, patriots. You better have a plan, because it's coming. The problem is that you're not even going to know when it's coming, because you can't trust the people that you put in power to be honest with you. I think they've proven that. And those that are honest with you can't give you the information that you need to make a conscious, realistic decision. Because for one reason or another, they're drowned out by the corporate media. So you have to ask yourselves, what do I have? Is my house in order? Have I made those relationships that I need to make with others like me so that we can band together? Because you can't do it by yourself. We have to do it together. That's what this show's about. So am I reaching out and making those agreements or those friendships so that when it does hit the fan, I have a good support group? Am I doing everything to protect my family's security and safety during these trying times? Have I made my life right with my God? You have to ask yourself that. It's all about community. It's all about preparation. So with that, I just want to say good night, America. God bless you. And thank you for listening to the Midnight Patriot radio show and podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Norton.